My in-laws dumped my bedridden, mute sister-in-law on me and went on vacation to Hawaii. Just before they left, my husband Jack said, "Taking care of her is your job. Don't slack off." As soon as Jack and his family left, my sister-in-law sat up and said, "Okay, let's get going too." I'm Lisa, 29 years old. As a teenager, I dreamed of becoming a pop star, but eventually realized it was a fleeting dream. And before I knew it, I was in my late 20s. I started dating Jack, whom I had met through a friend because my mother, with whom I live, kept asking when she would see her grandchild. Talking to Jack, I found out that he too had once dreamed of entering the entertainment industry when he was young. Despite our past aspirations, Jack now works at a prestigious trading company with its headquarters in downtown Manhattan. After graduating from college, I worked at a bank until I got married and quit. One day, Jack and I went to his parents' house. Jack has a younger sister named Lucy who caught a fever when she was a child. Her mother thought it was just a common cold, but when the fever didn't subside, they took her to a doctor and found out it was encephalitis caused by influenza. It was already too late, and due to the prolonged high fever, Lucy was left with brain damage and became bedridden. Furthermore, the high fever left lingering effects on the part of her brain that controls speech, leaving her unable to speak. My mother-in-law was the one who took care of Lucy for the most part. For some reason, Lucy and I got along well, and I always looked forward to visiting Jack's family. Lucy couldn't converse verbally, so she used sign language. After becoming close with Lucy, I naturally picked up sign language as well. One day, I signed to Lucy, "We're like best friends who've known each other forever, aren't we?" To which she replied, "Yes, we are. Let's stay close friends forever." I responded, "Of course we will." However, my mother-in-law, who was the complete opposite of Lucy, was always sarcastic towards me. Jack and I live in a condo about a 30-minute drive from his parents' house. But occasionally my mother-in-law would drive over unannounced and start nitpicking on me. "Jackie's shoes are filthy. If a man's shoes are dirty, it reflects poorly on his work. It's your responsibility to keep them clean," she would say. My mother-in-law always referred to Jack as Jackie. "Make sure you always fold the laundry neatly. If you don't, Jackie will be in a bad mood. No matter how late Jackie gets home, you must never go to bed before him, even if Jackie says it's okay for you to go to bed first." My mother-in-law would say such old-fashioned things. Jack, while we were dating and initially after we got married, was very kind and never disagreed with me. For example, if I said I wasn't feeling well and asked him to have dinner outside, he would readily agree. If I saw a designer bag I liked, he would buy it for me the following month. However, about a year after we got married, Jack started to change, or perhaps he returned to his original self. He started coming home late from work, always reeking of alcohol. Jack's been increasingly busy on Saturdays and Sundays, always claiming that work kept him away from home. When he would occasionally visit his parents' home, he would decline my requests to join him, which was odd. One day, I decided to confront him about it. "Jack, you've become so distant lately. It feels like you're a completely different person," I said. Jack glared at me for a moment, then replied, "That's not true. You're overthinking things." "I don't think I am," I retorted. "You barely talk to me anymore." "I told you, you're overthinking it. Stop bringing this up," he said, walking away to take a shower, ending the conversation. One day, Jack surprised me by saying, "This Sunday, I'm going home." "What are you going to do?" I was taken aback as Jack had previously always refused my company on such visits. "Wait, I can come with you this time," I asked. "That's why I'm asking." "Well, of course, I'll come then. I'd like to see Lucy too," I added. Jack frowned a bit and said, "You and Lucy seem to get along really well, huh?" "Yes, we do. It feels like we've been best friends forever," I responded, noticing Jack's slight grimace at my words. On Sunday, I drove us to Jack's family home in Nebraska. We stopped at a bakery along the way to buy some pastries as a gift. Jack's mother always has a frown when she sees me, but she would light up upon receiving the pastries. When we arrived, his mother came to greet us as usual. She frowned at my sight, almost as if she was not happy to see me. "Mother-in-law, please have some of these," I said, handing her the pastries. She snatched them from me and peered inside before replying, "Is it these pastries again? They're getting boring. But since you insist, I'll have them." Her face lit up like a child receiving a toy. Is father around today? He asked. Jack's father was elderly but still worked actively. He's out at a meeting. Why? Did you need something? She asked. No, not really. I just had something I wanted to talk about with him, Jack replied. I hadn't heard anything about this from Jack. What's going on? Did you have something to tell your father? I asked. Jack snapped. It's none of your business. What do you mean? We're a married couple, aren't we? I pressed. Can you just stop nagging? Jack retorted, and his mother chimed in. Exactly. If Jack doesn't want to tell you something, you shouldn't be prying. I decided not to respond, knowing that arguing with her would be fruitless. Just then, Jack's sister appeared. Oh, Jack, you're here, she said. Perfect timing, sis. I have something to discuss, Jack started. What is it? She asked. I can take a long vacation next month. I was thinking about a family trip to Hawaii. How about you, sis? Jack proposed. I'll pass. I don't have a passport, she replied. I was taken aback. Jack, who was always busy with work and rarely took time off, was suggesting a trip to Hawaii. Jack, is everything all right with your job? I'm only suggesting this trip because my work's going fine, he replied. My mother-in-law frowned deeply at my interference. You shouldn't meddle with decisions Jack has made. You're really nosy, aren't you? That's right, Jack added. And Lisa, the reason I asked you here today is because I want you to take care of Lucy while we're on vacation. I was momentarily taken aback, but then realized that staying here with Lucy would be much more enjoyable than going on a trip to Hawaii with my mother-in-law. Okay, I will take care of Lucy, but if that was the case, you didn't need to bring me all the way here to tell me that, did you? I figured if I told you in front of my mother, you'd understand quicker, Jack replied. He must have assumed I'd resist when I found out I couldn't go to Hawaii. And if I did, he wanted my mother-in-law to forcefully convince me. It was clear to me that this was his intent. I left the room, feeling dumbfounded, and headed to Lucy's room. Lucy looked delighted to see me. It's been a while. How have you been? I'm good. What brings you here today? Jack asked me to come with him to our parents' house, so I did. But it's strange. Before, whenever Jack came here, he used to tell me I couldn't come along. My brother is definitely hiding something. He's always been secretive. So apparently he's going to Hawaii next month, but I'll be staying back. I think that's better, though. I said this with a smile, and Lucy replied with a grin. In that case, you should come over and stay here. Sure, I'll do that. After that, Lucy and I had a great time chatting. I always wondered why Lucy and my mother-in-law were so different. About an hour later, Jack came to get me, and we headed home. At that time, Lucy gave me a slight wink and revealed a shocking truth and an even more shocking plan to me. A month later, on the day of the Hawaii trip, Jack and I went to his parents' house. Although I wasn't going to Hawaii, I brought my luggage to stay at my in-laws for a week with Lucy. I took the luggage to Lucy's room. It's finally happening, Lucy said, flashing a playful grin. When I returned to the living room, everyone going to Hawaii was already there. It seemed that Jack's father wasn't going, as he wasn't present. As the departure time neared, the entire family, with Jack's voice rising above the rest, chimed in, taking care of Lucy is your job. Don't slack off. Even my mother-in-law added, please get along well with Lucy. It's better for you to stay here, isn't it? If anything happens to Lucy, it's all your fault. We'll hold you responsible. It was absurd for someone about to abandon their immobile sister for a vacation in Hawaii to say these words, but I did not react at all. It didn't matter what Jack said. I wasn't in the mood to see them off, so I returned to Lucy's room. At that very moment, Lucy sprang up energetically from her bed and called out to me, come on, let's get going. This echoed a conversation we'd had just the other day when Lucy confessed, you know, I can actually walk. And with walking comes the ability to converse. Since when? I asked. Since last year, I suppose. Why have you been hiding this from the rest of the family? With that, Lucy began sharing an unexpected tale. Actually, my father and mother are both remarried. I'm my dad's child from his previous marriage, and my sister and brother are from my mom's side. I was surprised, but considering how distant and cold my mother-in-law usually was towards Lucy, I couldn't help but think I thought so. Is that so? Yeah, my mom despises me, and I didn't want to talk to her, so I pretended that I couldn't. And your father? Dad knows everything. He's always on my side. I see. That's why regarding this trip to Hawaii, I'm thinking we should go too. Huh? What do you mean? I mean, I'm planning to go to Hawaii on the same day as them. We'll even stay at the same resort, Lucy said with a sparkle in her eye, which caught me completely off guard. What? I'd be thrilled to go to Hawaii with you, Lucy, but do you even have a passport? Of course, I secretly got my passport last month. And don't worry about the expenses, my dad is covering our plane tickets and the resort, including yours. I see, I'm really looking forward to this. And that's how we ended up here today. When Lucy and I arrived at the airport via taxi, my father-in-law was there waiting to see us off. Lisa, it's been a while. I know it must be surprising, but I hope you enjoy the trip to Hawaii. Thank you, father-in-law. I feel guilty for all the plane tickets and resort fees you've covered. Huh, don't worry about it. As long as you two have fun, I'm happy. Thank you for your kindness. After that, we boarded a plane from a different airline than my husband's family. We landed in Hawaii early in the morning, took a taxi from the airport, and checked into the resort hotel. Lucy and I were sharing a room. I mentioned to Lucy, your father seems pretty well traveled. Yeah, he's been on several international business trips. He's even been to Hawaii a few times. So what's the plan? I'm guessing my mom and everyone will dine at the restaurant here tonight. I'm thinking of surprising them. That sounds like fun. I'm excited. Should we get some rest to recover from jet lag? That sounds like a good idea. I couldn't sleep at all on the plane. After taking a shower, we climbed into bed and quickly fell asleep. We woke up around late afternoon, close to 4 o'clock. Lucy was already awake, starting to wear makeup. I'm sorry I slept too much. No, don't worry about it. I just woke up too. We really had a good sleep, didn't we? Fully recharged and ready for our battle. Around 7 o'clock, I said to Lucy, I'll go and check out the restaurant. As I was looking for Jack and his party from the shadows near the entrance of the restaurant, I found them dining joyfully in a far-off spot. I was too far away from them, so I decided to venture deeper into the restaurant. From my position, all I could see was their backs, and it was hard to identify anyone. But I spotted the back of a young woman that I didn't recognize. There wasn't any such woman when they had left Jack's parents' house. Upon seeing this, I was taken aback, nearly letting out a loud gasp, but I managed to suppress it. When I strained my ears, I could intermittently hear Jack and my mother-in-law's voices. I'm glad it's not that woman today. Yeah, I really drew the short straw. She's tainted my family record. If only we had an elegant daughter like her from the start. I want to divorce her and start fresh soon, try to find a reason for the divorce and extract a hefty alimony from that woman. Even without a cause for the divorce, it's fine. I can fabricate as many as I want. She's so bad that I want to throw her in the trash. I want to see my grandchild from you and her soon, my mother-in-law said, giving the woman a smile that she had never shown me before. I was driven by the urge to step forward and see the woman's face. But I held it in, returning to my room and telling Lucy. That took a while. I'm sorry, I saw something shocking. Jack brought a woman that I've never seen before. What? I was about to scream. Jack and my mother-in-law were continuously bad-mouthing me, and Jack even said he would find a reason for divorce. That's terrible. Jack called me a bad catch, but seeing him with another woman, I felt relieved. Now I can divorce him outright. That's a good thing. Shall we make our entrance then? Lucy and I headed towards the restaurant hall. When we entered the restaurant, we requested to sit near Jack's table and were able to get a seat quite close to them. They didn't notice our arrival. As we were sitting quite close, we could hear their conversation, still filled with derogatory comments about me. I was amazed and ended up giving a bitter smile at how they could badmouth me indefinitely. Seeing my face, Lucy gave a nod with a smile. That was a cue for us to begin our counterattack. I stood up from my seat, stepped forward towards Jack, and shouted, "Are you all having a good time?" I'll never forget the look on Jack and my mother-in-law's faces at that moment. Their mouths agape and eyes wide open, they froze for a few seconds. After a few seconds, my mother-in-law finally spoke. "Why are you here, and how did Lucy get here without a wheelchair?" At her words, Lucy stood up, gave my mother-in-law a smile, and said, "I don't need a wheelchair." Once again, they were stunned. "Thanks to you, my body and speech have returned to normal. I must have caused you quite a bit of trouble for a long time." "Lucy, when did you regain your ability to speak?" I wonder when that was. Maybe last year. Then why did you hide it until now? Because it was better if you guys continued to believe that I couldn't speak. You and Jack were speaking ill of me earlier, weren't you? My mother-in-law's face turned pale in an instant. What do you mean? She asked. Yeah, we weren't saying anything bad about you, Lisa, Jack retorted. That won't work. I recorded everything on my phone. Do you want me to play it back right now? I countered. My mother-in-law fell silent, but Jack stood up. Lisa, you've been causing me trouble all this time, and now you're making these outrageous claims, he barked. Jack was the one making absurd claims, so I retaliated. Once I return back home, I'll immediately contact my lawyer to initiate our divorce proceedings. You can't deny the fact that you're on vacation abroad with another woman. Plus, you described getting with me as drawing a blank lottery ticket, so I expect you to demonstrate sincerity by paying a hefty compensation for that comment. At my words, my mother-in-law seemed to acknowledge her defeat, and her attitude abruptly changed. Lisa, dear, I really like you. Please try to get along with Jack. This woman is not involved with Jack, she pleaded. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. Since I am a blank lottery ticket, I cannot live with Jack. Please enjoy your time with this woman. Oh, and I might also seek compensation from her. Isn't that exciting? I smirked. The woman in question turned pale and began to tremble upon hearing my words. Unfazed by the public gaze, Jack fell to his knees and pleaded, Lisa, I beg you, don't make this a big deal. My company has strict rules about this, he implored. What's that? You don't sound sorry at all. I replied. Jack appeared taken aback, then tried again. Lisa, I beg you, forgive me. If my company finds out, I'll lose my job, he confessed. Though your plea sounds better now, I will never forgive you. You are married, and yet here you are on an overseas trip with another woman, I said firmly. Upon hearing my words, my mother-in-law also fell to her knees next to Jack, pleading, Please forgive my son. She implored, tears streaming down her face. By this time, all the other customers were watching us, and the restaurant manager started walking towards our table. Seeing this, I got up and said, Well, Lucy and I will head back to our room. You all enjoy your Hawaiian vacation. I guess things will get a bit difficult when you get back home. Hearing this, Jack, crying, shouted at the top of his lungs, Please forgive me. I can't afford to pay any compensation. At his loud outburst, the restaurant manager frowned, instructed something to a nearby staff member, and then briskly told Jack something. It was a polite way of telling him that he was disturbing the other guests and needed to leave. However, Jack was taken aback, not understanding the manager's words. Soon, 2 burly security guards arrived and hauled Jack away. Jack was sobbing and struggling, but he was no match for the 2 bulky men. My mother-in-law and the woman were dumbfounded, unable to utter a word. While Lucy and I were also surprised by the turn of events, I thought Jack got what he deserved. A week later, Lucy and I returned home. Jack was quickly released and seemed to have returned to his room. However, I later heard that he had been in a state of shock since returning to his room and had kept to himself until the end of the trip. The day after I returned home, I went to the law firm where my old college friend worked to request a divorce proceeding. Unfortunately, my friend was not present, but a female lawyer was assigned to me who was very easy to talk to, and I was able to explain everything that had happened. After listening to my story, she assured me that a divorce was possible, that I could claim alimony, and that she would investigate the woman who was with Jack in Hawaii before determining whether I could claim alimony from her as well. A month later, the female lawyer contacted me and informed me that it had been proven that Jack had been dating the other woman for about 6 months. Hence, she said it was possible for me to demand alimony from this woman too. I requested the female lawyer to please squeeze as much alimony as you can from Jack and his woman. She smiled and nodded. 2 months later, I was officially divorced, and into my bank account was deposited the alimony from the 2. I mumbled as I saw the amount, and that's karma for calling me a blank lottery ticket. 3 months later, Jack and my mother-in-law suddenly visited my place. Despite it being only 3 months, they had lost a lot of weight and looked completely haggard. I asked them, What do you want? I don't want to see your faces. Jack replied in a thin voice, I'm sorry, could you lend me some money? I've lost my job, and the woman ran away. I don't even have money for food. My mother-in-law also spoke in a whisper, I've divorced my husband too. I don't have money. Please, I beg you. My mother-in-law was in tears. I responded, too bad. I have absolutely no obligation to help you, and even if I did, I would never help you guys out. Now please leave. After they left, I sprinkled a large amount of salt at my entrance to get rid of the bad energy from my house. My life might have been tougher than the average person's. I didn't have a dad, and it was just my single mom who raised me all by herself. We were estranged from our relatives, so Mom was all alone in her efforts. She managed to send me to college, but years of hardship took their toll, and she passed away due to illness around the same time I graduated. After that, I had no family left. I landed a job at a regular company and met my wonderful husband, Tony. Tony, an executive at a client company, was a bit older than me. Having grown up without a dad, Tony was a reassuring and reliable figure for me. One day, I forgot some important documents at the client's office. Realizing this, I decided to rush back without telling my boss, intending to retrieve them. However, I didn't have a pass to enter the client's building, which my boss usually handled. Standing clueless in front of the client's office, an employee I had met earlier came running out with the documents. That was how I met Tony. Knowing my situation, Tony handed me the documents with an innocent smile and said, "Let's keep this our little secret." I fell for that smile and pursued him eagerly. It didn't take long for us to get married, and I found happiness. We weren't blessed with children, but every day was joyful. Tony, who always made me laugh, rescued me from a lifetime of loneliness. Just as I vowed to spend my life by Tony's side, we discovered he had cancer, already at stage 4. The doctor broke the news to us, and I was devastated. Tony deeply regretted leaving me alone in the end. But just before our 10th wedding anniversary, Tony passed away. Feeling lonely again, I was contemplating my solitude when suddenly, my father-in-law George proposed, "How about living together?" George was the only person who genuinely rejoiced and celebrated our marriage. Initially, when Tommy and I decided to marry, I had no family, so I was met with skepticism from Tommy's circles and relatives. Some relatives even opposed our marriage. However, George never cared about me having no family, and after the marriage, treated me like his real family. Tommy's mother, Marie, had passed away when he was young, so George had been living for many years with his real sister, Lily. Maybe that's why George was so handy and could manage all household tasks. He was also a great cook, often visiting our home to treat us with delicious meals. Lily, who lived with George, was single and didn't have a steady job. She used to earn quite a bit from door-to-door sales. But since that company went bankrupt, she struggled to find stable employment and was doing odd jobs. Most of the living expenses were covered by George's income, but a few years ago, George's legs grew weak, and he quit his job. They were barely getting by on his small earnings and pension. Knowing that George, who handled household chores, wasn't in the best health, I had been helping out at his place from time to time, even when Tony was alive. George would always apologize with a regretful look, saying, "I'm sorry I've become a burden because of my condition." I'd reply, "Don't worry about it. I'm good at housework, and I'm happy to see you well." Not knowing what it's like to have a dad, I was genuinely happy to take care of George. Tommy, knowing I considered George like a real dad, was always happy to send me off to help. However, Lily didn't feel the same way. Whenever I went to help, she would meet me at the door and say, "So you're here to butter up again. You're an outsider, you know. No matter what you do, you won't get any inheritance," with a spiteful look. I would always deny it, saying, "No, that's not my intention." But Lily would repeat the same line every time I visited. Despite her continuous sarcasm towards me, Lily never attempted to do any housework. Ideally, Lily, who had been living there all along, should have been the one doing the chores. But she would always go out and not return until late at night. Even when she was home and saw me helping, she would just hurl insults at me and then retreat to her room, seemingly satisfied. George noticed this behavior and warned Lily, but it had no effect. He then apologized to me again, saying I'm sorry because of this. Even though I didn't mind taking care of George, living together would mean facing Lily every day. I asked for some time to think about George's offer. After all, living alone after Tommy's passing was indeed unsettling. Having someone reliable around is completely different, especially since the offer came from George, who was like a dad to me. Despite Lily's harassment, I concluded that I could endure it to live a better life. I strongly preferred returning to a home with George over going back to an empty house. Later, I moved in with George, bringing only a few belongings. I was familiar with George's house, knowing where everything was except for the inside of Lily's room. Whenever I passed by, I could smell cigarette smoke, but her door was always closed. When I offered to clean her room occasionally, she accused me of being a thief. No way, don't enter my room without permission. You might steal something. I protested. I would never do such a thing. You can't be sure. After all, you have no family to trouble, right? Every time Lily spoke to me, she would use words like outsider and remind me of having no family, knowing these were the words that hurt me the most. She knew I couldn't retort and deliberately used them. Once her door was half open and I could see inside. Confirming Lily wasn't there, I peeked in to find cigarette butts, alcohol bottles, and trash scattered on the floor. I hesitated for a moment, but knowing Lily would accuse me again, I quietly closed the door. Since Lily was mostly out during the day, I could spend the day in peace by avoiding her in the mornings and evenings, enduring the harsh treatment. This life continued for several months. Lily's harassment persisted, but during this time, George's health deteriorated day by day. Recently, walking became difficult for him, leading to more bedridden days. His health worsened, catching colds more frequently. Despite hospital visits, his condition did not improve, and a year into living together, he couldn't get out of bed anymore. I suggested hospitalization, but George stubbornly refused. Seeing this, Lily loudly accused me in front of George. Ever since you came to this house, George's health has been declining. Are you putting something in his food, I wonder? George looked at his sister but no longer had the energy to admonish her. Then, turning to me, he wore the same apologetic expression as before. Perhaps he was worried that if he were hospitalized, Lily would torment me even more. I continued to care for George while trying to ignore Lily's constant badmouthing. Lily didn't care for her own brother at all. She only entered George's room to hurl insults at me. But as George's care was demanding, I barely reacted to her. Maybe because I didn't respond to her verbal abuse, she started throwing things at me when she was drunk. Don't act all high and mighty cleaning our house. This is mine and George's home. Just stick to cooking or something, she yelled, splashing her drink on me. My head was drenched in alcohol, and some even spilled on George's bed. Stop it, please. It's getting on George, I begged, trying to stop her, but Lily, drunk, wouldn't listen. Don't order me around, you plague. You're the one weakening George. Her actions filled the room with a smell of alcohol. When Lily got like this, there was no stopping her until she was satisfied. Sometimes she would even hurl abusive words at George. George, maybe it's time for you to find peace. If this continues, my living expenses will turn into your medical bills. This woman will be happy to be rid of her caregiving duties. She mercilessly spoke such cruel words to her own brother. George just looked at her with tearful eyes. All I could do was protect George and wait for the violence to end. Lily's drunken rampages were always predictable. She spent her days outside, frequently visiting a nearby lottery ticket vendor. One time, she returned home in a very good mood with her arms full of paper bags stuffed with sweets, and the smell of cigarette smoke was strongly emanating from her clothes. I once asked her, "Where have you been?" She replied, "None of your business. Even if I win the lottery, I won't give you a dime," and snickered as she walked into her room. She must have been in a good mood to accidentally reveal her lottery habit. That was when I first learned Lily spent her days at the lottery ticket vendor. I was curious how she managed to fund her lottery habit, but I was too frightened by her outbursts to ask. Whenever the lottery didn't pay off, Lily would inevitably drink and take her frustration out on me. She would come home, pull out alcohol from the fridge, and demand, "Hey, make dinner." Since she often returned late at night, I would prepare meals and run her bath. Neglecting these tasks would result in her throwing things and screaming, so I never had a moment's peace. Despite this, I dedicated myself to caring for George 24/7, actively engaging in his rehabilitation. However, George grew increasingly frail and struggled even to breathe. After several months of my devoted care, George passed away. Though he was too weak to speak, he mustered the strength to thank me. "You've been a great help." "Thank you." Hearing these final words from George made all my hardships seem worth it. He had supported my marriage to his son, and after Tony's death, he offered to live with me, an outsider. George was my greatest benefactor. With his passing, I found myself alone again, but I couldn't afford to be sentimental. Lily didn't lift a finger to help with the funeral arrangements, leaving everything to me. It was only after the funeral that I could truly reflect on my time with George. Because of his caring nature, distant relatives gathered to pay their respects. During the post-funeral meal, everyone reminisced about George. Even Lily listened quietly to the relatives' stories. He always stood by us, one said. Right, he was always there when we needed him, added another. George had always been a man of action, never expecting anything in return for his help. Hearing this, I felt happy, as if they were talking about me too. Then a relative broached the subject. What about the inheritance? There should be land and real estate left. Yeah, he inherited his wife's assets too, so it must be a considerable amount. Despite the funeral just ending, they started discussing the inheritance. Hearing this, Lily's eyes lit up. Right, I'm the closest blood relative, so I'll protect George's inheritance. Besides, I've been taking care of him, so I have a right to inherit, she confidently declared. Watching Lily's eyes sparkle, I felt a deep sense of unease. But I couldn't avoid the inheritance discussion. As the relatives were getting worked up over the inheritance, a man suddenly entered. Everyone looked at him, but judging by the relatives' faces, no one seemed to recognize him. Amid the strange atmosphere, the man handed out his business card and said, I've been entrusted with the will. Lily, sensing an opportunity, approached the lawyer and said, Really? Then let's open the will right here. Her eyes were shining again as she pulled the lawyer to a seat. The lawyer took out the will from his bag and began to read it in a calm manner. Lily's face turned red immediately. The relatives also became restless. The will stated that all of George's estate was entrusted to me and nothing was left for his biological sister. I was as surprised as anyone. Even though I lived with George, I was still an outsider. That he entrusted his entire estate to me was unexpected. Hearing the lawyer's words, Lily lost her bright eyes, her face filling with anger and hatred. How can he leave the inheritance to some unknown woman? This is unacceptable. Has George lost his mind? Lily yelled in a voice that was almost like a roar. She continued, After Marie passed away, it was me who lived with and struggled with George. What does this woman know about our lives? It's ridiculous to leave everything to her. She looked ready to pounce on me. Some relatives seemed to agree. Yeah, she lived with him for a long time. She's his real sister. Maybe there's a mistake in this will. Probably moved in for the inheritance. Yeah, maybe she manipulated him into writing the will. The relatives, perhaps upset they weren't receiving anything, started to speculate wildly. Internally, I thought they don't know the truth, but I knew any protest from me would play right into Lily's hands. As I remained silent and looked down, the relatives' mistrust in me seemed to grow. Just as they were about to discuss contesting the will, the previously silent lawyer spoke up. Decide what to do with this will after you see this, he said, placing an envelope and a USB memory stick on the table. Lily, with a puzzled expression, opened the envelope, and a multitude of photos spilled out. They showed Lily in a rage, swinging around bottles of alcohol. She turned pale and clutched the photos tightly. As the relatives gathered and saw more photos, they found images of Lily throwing things at me and George, and her entering a lottery ticket vendor. There were also pictures of her withdrawing money from a bank ATM. The lawyer explained promptly, These are photos of her withdrawing George's pension without permission. I realized then that she had been using George's pension for her lottery expenses. Lily was out almost every day. I had noticed her frequent visits to the lottery place, but I didn't know where the money was coming from. I received a fixed amount for household expenses, so I had no way to investigate. Seeing these photos, the relatives who had been suspicious of me now turned their doubtful eyes towards Lily. What's the meaning of these photos? Did you withdraw money for the lottery without permission? One relative asked. Lily, struggling for an explanation, said, I did it because George said it was okay. I only got angry and threw things because that woman was being unreasonable. George knew about it and stayed quiet. Then the lawyer added, We have more evidence to show, and opened a laptop, plugging in the USB drive. The same scene of Lily swinging alcohol appeared on the screen, but this time with audio. George, when are you going to die? Once you do, I'll get your inheritance. You must be wishing for death too, Lily's voice was heard saying. Incredibly, it was all recorded with video and audio. According to the lawyer, George, fearing for his and my life, had hired him before his death. He had secretly installed cameras and hired a detective to tail Lily, capturing her actions outside. He wanted to ensure that his estate wouldn't end with his sister after his death, so he asked for the will to be backed up with these photos and videos. I was astonished. George, who in his later years could hardly move and struggled to speak, had planned all this. I was astounded by George's resourcefulness to the very end. Lily seemed to have lost the energy to argue any further, looking down and clenching her teeth. With all this evidence presented, she must have realized that any excuses would not convince the relatives. She downed a bottle of alcohol in one go and slumped over the table. After witnessing the video, the relatives were clearly not inclined to let Lily inherit the estate. Thanks to the will and the plethora of evidence the lawyer presented, I was the one who inherited the estate. Initially, I thought of declining the substantial inheritance. Even though it was George's wish, we were still strangers after all. I feared I might end up misusing the fortune, perhaps even in gambling like Lily. But the fact remained that George trusted me and treated me like family, even if it was for a short while. As a gesture of gratitude, I decided to use the inheritance to maintain George's grave for as long as I live. I had enough to live on from Tony's inheritance. I erected a tombstone for George and set up a grand altar, placing photographs of Tony, George, and Marie there. As for Lily, she succumbed to a gambling addiction and alcoholism and was forcibly admitted to a hospital. She likely won't leave it for the rest of her life. While I did feel a pang of pity, I couldn't forgive the years of torment she put me through. Still, as George's biological sister, I thought it right to cover her hospital expenses. Now alone again, my situation was different from before. I had something to protect, and that alone made me feel not so solitary. From now on, I plan to live out my remaining days peacefully in the house I shared with George. What do you think the time is? Where's my dinner? I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you this morning that I'd be late again because of work. You think I can remember every little thing like that? I wish I could just ditch my old wife and marry a younger woman. Whenever my husband has a complaint, he jumps to the idea of getting rid of his old wife. Today he's griping about a late dinner, even though I told him I'd be late because my part-time job is busy right now. He conveniently forgets his own forgetfulness. My name is Lissa. I've been married to Jimmy, who frequented my workplace, for 13 years. What should have been a happy married life soured due to conflicts with my father-in-law, who lives nearby. Jimmy's philosophy of out with the old, in with the new all comes from him. My father-in-law regrets that my mother-in-law is 3 years older and treats her like an old lady every chance he gets. He wanted Jimmy to marry a younger woman and made a displeased face when he found out I was 2 years older at our first meeting. Why would you settle for leftovers? Think about it, he had said. But since my father-in-law didn't like me, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were kind to me. My mother-in-law, who loves hot springs, was very pleased when I took her and my sister-in-law to the spa. One day, I pretended to go to the spa with my mother-in-law, but went straight to Home Depot instead. After shopping for various items, I turned back home about an hour later. When I quietly unlocked the door, I heard water running in the bathroom. Apparently, Jimmy was in there. As I tiptoed down the hallway, I heard a woman's laughter from the bathroom. I knew it. A cold chill ran down my spine. Jimmy had brought a woman home, and they were together in the bathroom. Flashback to several hours earlier. Lissa, you're going to the spa with Mom tomorrow, right? Yeah, sorry. Shall we cancel tomorrow? No, it's fine. You haven't been in a while, so take your time and enjoy some good food, he said, handing me $100 bill. Jimmy, who usually complained when I came back late from being with my mother-in-law, unusually allowed me to return late and even gave me some spending money. Something was off. Could this be the phenomenon where a husband becomes kinder to his wife when he's cheating, feeling guilty? Jimmy's next action confirmed my suspicions. I'm going to take a shower now, he said, heading to the bathroom with his mobile phone. Normally, Jimmy hated showers, calling them a hassle, and never went unless I nagged him. Afterward, he'd wander around in just his underwear, refusing to dress, saying, "It's my house. What's wrong with doing as I please?" By the way, Jimmy never used his mobile phone to listen to music in the bathroom, so why would he take it there? It meant either he had someone he wanted to contact immediately or didn't want me to see his phone. Both scenarios pointed to one fact: Jimmy was having an affair. Normally, I trust Jimmy, and even though we're married, I don't want to invade his privacy by looking into his mobile phone. However, if there's a possibility of infidelity, I cannot just overlook it. Late at night, I quietly woke up and sneakily opened Jimmy's mobile phone. The passcode was likely a combination of the numbers on a license plate of a car he used to own. Since his bank PIN is the same, I roughly figured it out. Sure enough, the phone opened easily. Then picture after picture emerged, each featuring a young woman who looked at least 10 years younger and a middle-aged man with a receding hairline. I was amazed that such an older man like my husband could get attention from a young woman like her. There were text messages between them too. Who's this? Oh, the other party is Crystal. Got it. The most recent conversation revealed Jimmy's joyful voice and the reason for the extra allowance he had given me. Tomorrow, wife will be out for sure. Yeah, so as promised, can I come to your house? I'll be waiting. Then I'll wear the underwear you bought me last time. Will you undress me? Of course. In the bed you always share with your wife? Yes. The fact that Jimmy, who once loved me so much, was gone weighed heavily on my heart. That night, I cried quietly by myself and swore I would definitely take revenge. I tiptoed to the door in front of the bathroom and locked it with a motorcycle theft prevention lock. The loud sound of the lock closing didn't seem to be noticed as I had timed it with the commotion in the bathroom. I called my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law, Jimmy is indeed having an affair. I knew it. Lisa, I'm truly sorry. I'll be right there. Looking around the living room, I saw an unfamiliar female bag. I took up the mobile phone inside and found no passcode. In the phone book, I saw Mom, but got no answer. Next was brother, so I called. Hello, are you Crystal's brother? Who are you? I introduced myself and began to explain. Actually, at my house right now, Crystal is in the bathroom with my husband. What? Are you saying my sister Crystal is having an affair with your husband? I don't want to believe it, but it seems that way. My sister's kind and cares about our mother. Don't lie. His shouting was so loud that I had to hold the phone away from my ear as I continued. I thought I'd ask you to come pick her up. I tried calling your mother, but she didn't answer. Why not see for yourself if I'm lying? I see. Mom didn't answer. Yes. Good. Mom is preparing for surgery and is in the hospital. Please, I'll come, but promise not to call Mom. I understand. If that's the situation, I promise. Thank you. I owe you one. After a while, the doorbell rang repeatedly. Then the sound of water coming from the bathroom quieted down. Who is it at this time? Is it a delivery, Jimmy? What are you doing, giving up halfway? A conversation was overheard. Yes. Reacting to the doorbell and the two people in the bathroom, there was a surprised exclamation. Yikes, Lisa. Why? Oh, your wife. With panicked voices, more splashing water could be heard. Then, a loud noise of someone trying to open the bathroom door came through. Hey, what's going on? It won't open. Hey, let me out. I could imagine Jimmy's pathetic attempt to open the door naked, and I opened the front door laughing. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, and sister-in-law's relatives were all gathered. Listen, where's Jimmy? Is he still inside? Yes, I locked it tight. Way to go. Yes, evidence is most important, I thought. Mom. Sister. A sound like dropping a heavy load was heard. It seemed that Jimmy had fallen over in surprise. Come on, this is not the time to sit down. Mother-in-law screamed at the sight of the scattered clothes for two in the living room. What is this? Evidence number 2. I'll collect it now. I picked up the woman's clothing and unlocked the bathroom. Inside were two pale-faced individuals wrapped in bath towels. Here are Crystal's clothes. Please come out once you've dressed. Hey, what about mine? Jimmy, this should be enough for you, just underwear. Well, Jimmy, you always wear underwear only after a bath, don't you? After a while, the two seemed resigned and came out of the bathroom. Jimmy was in his underwear, with his wet hair plastered thinly to his forehead. Lisa, I'm sorry. I'll grant you any wish. Please forgive me. A divorce will suffice. Don't rely on my money. What? But you said you don't need an older wife. A woman who scatters clothes all over the living room is no better than Alyssa. Cheating is your own fault. You'll have to work daily jobs or whatever to earn the divorce settlement. No way, Dad. Just then, the doorbell rang, announcing a visitor. When I responded, Crystal screamed at the sight of the man on the monitor. My brother. I'm sorry I called him. It's not fair to only Jimmy. He'll kill me. Oh, Crystal, are you okay? It's not me. It's Jimmy. He's not okay. My brother is a former fighter. What? Opening the door, a tall man was already bowing deeply. I'm Mike, Crystal's brother. I apologize for the trouble my sister has caused you. No need to apologize, sir. Anyway, please come in, Crystal, I said. Mike stood up, a muscular man who appeared to be over 6 feet tall, and walked into the living room, his sharp, animal-like eyes fixed on his sister. Crystal looked like she was about to cry. Crystal, did you really have an affair with this man? Mike asked, his voice intense. His sister nodded with a pale face. Mike slowly shifted his gaze to Jimmy, coming close enough that their noses almost touched. Jimmy couldn't meet his eyes, frozen in terror by the intensity of Mike's stare. You tricked and toyed with Crystal, Mike said firmly, grabbing Jimmy by the shoulders, who couldn't escape and hung his head like a broken doll. Oops, it's unprofessional to hit an amateur, Mike said to himself, releasing Jimmy's shoulders and bowing his head deeply again. Listen, family, my sister has truly caused you trouble. But I still can't believe it, even hearing it from Crystal's mouth. My sister had a crush on someone. Well, he's my disciple. If he was willing, I was planning to let them marry. With Mitch? Crystal's cheeks turned red, and her eyes sparkled. Well, that's all ruined now, Mike said. Of course, you're trying to be happy by stealing someone else's happiness. What are you thinking, huh? Crystal shrank under the weight of Mike's loud, angry voice. The mystery deepens. Crystal likes this Mitch guy, right? So why with my balding brother? I'm not balding. Not yet, Jimmy interjected. No, it's too late now. It's because Jimmy said he would pay for my mother's surgery, Crystal interjected. Apparently, Crystal's mother needed expensive surgery, and she got involved with Jimmy because he dangled money in front of her. What? Just because it's for your mother, infidelity with a married man is not acceptable. Haven't you learned from the pain? Eek, I'm sorry, Crystal apologized, rubbing her head on the floor. Jimmy, you have a good wife like Lissa, and you took advantage of Crystal's feelings for her parents. Hi, I'm sorry, Jimmy apologized, his forehead nearly buried in the floor. But the thing with my mother was just the beginning, and I got hooked, too. I'm sorry. While keeping Mike, he had been apologizing all along standing. I have an idea, Mother, about the compensation you said you'd give me. I'll have Jimmy pay for it. So, if you'd like, use it for Crystal's mother's surgery. Oh yes, let's do that. No, just the thought is enough. Don't underestimate my shop's income, Crystal. I picked up my packed carry-on bag and handed Jimmy the divorce papers. You're prepared, huh? Yes, I prepared all night, crying, preparing to leave you. Lissa, I'm sorry. I left the house, leaving Jimmy. 3 years later, a long line formed in front of the sign. Knockout Krillin Bar Number 2, opening today. Welcome. Oh, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, father-in-law too. You all came. Thank you for the opening flowers. The congratulations on the opening, and this is a wedding gift. Mother-in-law handed over a bag filled with thick wads of cash. Oh, I can't accept this much. Why not? Just take it. Thank you. Mitch, come over here. Thank you for your kindness and for giving us a good deal on the rent for this place. Mitch's barbecue ribs are exceptional. It's a small thing compared to that. I thought that after the divorce, I wouldn't see mother-in-law and the others again and felt lonely, but mother-in-law and the others still called me and invited me to the spa. The only thing that's changed is what's written on paper, they said. So I remained a spa buddy with mother-in-law and sister-in-law, just like before. After learning about Mike's shop through Crystal's situation, and since father-in-law loved barbecue ribs, we became captivated by their deliciousness. When Mitch, who was training at Mike's shop, confessed to me, I initially refused since he was 7 years younger, but surprisingly, father-in-law approved. Alyssa, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Your calm and generous handling of Jimmy's affair was impressive. That's when you see the difference in people. There's nothing better than an older wife. I do wish you'd reconcile with Jimmy, but thinking of your happiness isn't being with Mitch the best thing for you. And now, Mitch and I are married. Mitch, who rented land from father-in-law, decided to open a shop there under a franchise agreement with Mike's shop. By the way, I don't know if Jimmy's affair was discovered by his company, but he was transferred to the Dallas branch and hasn't been able to return. Speaking of which, it's good that Mike's mother is doing well. How's Crystal? Mike is helping out today as well. She's transferred to Seoul, heartbroken. It's her own fault. Crystal, who broke up with Jimmy, confessed to Mitch but was rejected, saying, "I have some I like." Mitch asked me out right after that. Yes, it's really delicious. It's getting great reviews on social media too. Thank you. It's all thanks to you. The time when Jimmy was cheating in the bathroom now seems like the lowest point in my life. Step by step, I built bonds with various people and now I'm here. From now on, Mitch and I want to live happily by continuing to make delicious barbecue ribs, putting our hearts into each dish. It was my fault. I could barely speak, merely echoing my mother-in-law Uriah's words. That's exactly what I mean. If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened. I do not acknowledge you as Noel's wife. You're not suitable. That's what I mean. Why all of a sudden? Why say such things? I asked, my voice trembling. It's a problem that you've lied this long without understanding such things. Realize it. It's true what they say, children from low-level single-parent homes have issues. Seeing you has only reinforced that belief, she replied. My name is Sierra. I'm a 35-year-old office worker living with my husband and our elementary school-aged child. We've been a family of 3 since the beginning of our marriage and lived close to my husband Noel's family home. We maintained a good relationship while keeping a comfortable distance. The turning point in our relationship with my father-in-law and Aria came a few years ago. They always cared for us and we were grateful, but father-in-law passed away after a long illness. Aria's grief at losing him was painfully evident to me. Considering Noel's commute, we planned to move, but seeing Aria's condition made leaving her alone worrisome. Noel and I discussed it many times and decided to stay put until Aria's situation stabilized. That's when it started. Slowly but surely, Aria began to overstep our personal space. When my father-in-law was alive, Aria never visited our home unnecessarily. She never came unannounced, at least not as far as I knew. But now she suddenly started showing up without any notice. It began as a day or two, but recently she's been at our house half the week. If only she gave prior notice, I could bear it, but entertaining Aria when she's so unpleasant is disheartening, especially since she only brings up unpleasant conversations. Sierra, you're always home late, aren't you? Are you that busy with work? Are you taking proper care of Noel? She would ask. What exactly do you mean by proper care? I replied, trying to stay calm. Just what I said. Are you serving nutritious meals and looking after his health? Noel is the pillar of our family, my precious son. You're not just serving him frozen meals and hot deli food because you're short on time, are you? She glanced at the freezer, her demeanor suggesting she might just open it. Well, not always, but sometimes yes. Noel tells me not to overdo it too, I stammered. Really? But just because you discuss it with Noel doesn't mean you can neglect proper meals. It's just laziness. You should be able to manage that, considering Noel's health. What are your thoughts on this? Aria's tone grew harsher with every word. I'm sorry, Aria. I try, but it's hard to find the time, I said, feeling more and more defeated. That's just laziness. I've worked for many years. I understand the difficulties of working women. But despite that, I've overcome and provided healthy meals and maintained our household for my husband and Noel. From my experience, not having time is just an excuse. Stop making excuses, Sierra. Show some responsibility as a homemaker in charge of your family's health. I can't rest easy otherwise, she lectured. Aria, a longtime middle school teacher, always judged everything by her standards without considering others. Since a minor incident in middle school due to my family background, I've had a poor impression of teachers, including Aria. I understand she cares about our family in her way, which is why I can't say anything and just listen during her lectures. But maybe my attitude seemed unreliable as Aria's behavior gradually changed. Before, she used to come unannounced to lecture or make snide remarks, but lately she started bringing homemade meals, always in such large quantities that our family couldn't finish them in one go, mostly Noel's favorites. At first, I thanked her for her efforts. Encouraged by this, Aria began bringing food daily. Sierra, I understand you're busy, but can't you come home earlier? The meals I prepare get cold because I can't get them inside. I want Noel to eat them while they're hot, she said. I'm sorry. I do want to come home early, but it's just a busy period at work right now, I explained. But you say that, yet isn't it just that you're not good at your job? I heard on TV recently that people who are good at their jobs manage to leave on time. On the contrary, those who aren't good stay late and work overtime. It's like they were talking about you, Sierra. Aren't you, in fact, not good at your job? Aria always had a mean look on her face when she said such things. No, that's not it. I think I do my job well enough, I replied, trying to defend myself. Displeased with my attitude, Aria's face clearly showed her annoyance. I'm only making and bringing these meals because you always serve hot deli food. Don't you understand that if you come home late because of work, it's all for nothing? Don't you feel even a bit sorry for receiving all these meals I've made? She spoke as if expecting gratitude was a given. I never asked her to cook for us, neither did Noel. Of course, I thanked her and accepted the meals. But it was all Aria imposing her goodwill. To me, it was a nuisance, albeit one I was grateful for. Then one day, Aria said something that pushed me to my limit. See you. I've been thinking, you're never home when I visit, right? To avoid wasting these meals, I think it's better if I also have a key to your house. That way, I can drop off the food anytime. Plus, with things being unsafe these days, I can quickly come over if something happens. Just ask Noel to give me a spare key, okay? Aria's request left me stunned. Hearing this, I realized I couldn't handle it alone anymore. I needed to talk to Noel about Aria. Noel, I need to talk to you about your mom. I can't handle this by myself anymore, I said, my voice shaking. Mom's issue? What happened? He asked, concerned. Aria visits our house daily, always without any notice. I do my best to accommodate her when I can, but I can't always be available. I have my own schedule too, I explained. Yeah, I get it, he said sympathetically, and now she wants a spare key to our house. It's hard enough as it is, but if she can enter when we're not home, that's unbearable. If we give her one, she might start coming over all the time. Just the thought is frightening. I'm sorry to speak this way about your mom, I confessed. Seriously, Mom said that. I don't like the idea of her coming in with a spare key either. Okay, I understand. It might be hard for you to say, so I'll talk to her clearly about it, Noel promised. I felt relieved, glad I had talked to Noel. The next day, while I was at work, Aria called. Sierra, what time will you be home today? She asked. What do you mean? I replied, confused. Well, I made too much beef stew, Noel's favorite. I thought I'd bring it over. So what time will you be home? She explained. I see. In that case, I should be home a little after 7, so I'll definitely be there by 7:30, I said. All right, I'll come around then. Thanks, Aria replied. It might have been the first time Aria called before visiting. Noel must have talked to her already. I was impressed by how quickly things change. But honestly, I didn't just want her to call before visits, I wanted her to stop visiting altogether. That was my true wish. But for now, I was genuinely happy she called in advance. Aria's visit frequency didn't change, but she started calling beforehand, which significantly reduced my stress. However, after a while, I noticed something odd. I started running into Aria more often when I was out. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, like when our family went shopping on the weekend or when I went to buy toys with my child, or even bumped into her at the station on a weekday evening. Meeting her this frequently seemed too much for coincidence, but strangely, nothing more happened. We'd bump into each other, exchange greetings, explain what we were doing, and that was it. It never led to anything else. Maybe that's why, before I knew it, I had become accustomed to this situation. One holiday, while this was going on, we decided to clean the house before the delivery of a sofa set Noel had wanted for a while. We planned to place it in the living room, so that was our primary focus for cleaning. But before we knew it, both Noel and I got carried away and started cleaning the kitchen and bedroom too. It was a completely accidental discovery. In a corner of the bedroom, there was an inconspicuous outlet that seemed unlikely to ever be used. Only a double outlet adapter was plugged in there. I didn't remember buying it, nor placing it there. Noel didn't recall it either. Both of us felt something was off. Without saying a word to each other, we started checking all the outlets in the house. We found one mysterious outlet adapter each in the kitchen and living room, and another in the bedroom, making 3 in total. By then we had a feeling about what it might be, but we were too scared to put it into words. It's like those things you see on TV sometimes, isn't it? Who would do this and why? I said, breaking the silence. Where's the banking card? Noel suddenly asked, startling me. What? What do you mean? I was confused, not understanding what Noel meant. Noel, noticing my confusion, asked slowly and clearly, is our banking card here? Has it gone missing? Noel seemed to have his own thoughts on the matter and quickly checked. After confirming the banking card was safe, Noel put his finger to his lips and quietly moved us to the living room. We might be bugged, so it's better not to talk about it there. We should be safe here. It's far enough, he said to reassure me. Should we call the police in this situation? I asked, starting to panic. Noel stopped me. It's good to report to the police, but let's wait. Reporting without knowing who did it might just waste time. I have an idea. We can report it after this, Noel said as he shared his plan with me. Honestly, upon hearing it, I wanted to report it immediately, but Noel seemed to have a hunch. That night, we put the double outlet back in its original place, wrapped in newspaper with a fan blowing on it continuously. At 2 a.m., the front door quietly opened and a figure entered, heading straight to the living room. The person picked up the double outlet, inspecting it closely. We captured all these actions on camera and, without any warning, turned on the living room lights. The figure panicked at the sudden light. I was momentarily stunned upon seeing the person, but it also felt expected. It was Aria. So it was you. We need an explanation, Mom. Noel spoke calmly, but there was an underlying anger. Aria turned her anger towards me instead. Sierra, what is this all about? Even in this situation, she seemed to not understand her position. I just came to check on something, and now even Noel is looking at me like that. What's going on? Don't play dumb. What were you checking by sneaking into our house in the middle of the night? Noel demanded. What does it matter? More importantly, why are you two so angry with me? Aria deflected. You still don't get it. This was all my husband's idea. We're the ones asking for an explanation, not you, I said, trying to stay calm. Aria, if you have something to say, answer our questions first, Noel insisted. Sierra's right. If you're going to play dumb, we'll call the police. Understand? Noel's voice was cold, and Aria's attitude shifted as if she realized there was no other way. Reporting to the police? That's an overreaction. We're family. There's no need for such formalities. This is all a misunderstanding, so let's not make a big deal out of it, Aria pleaded. A misunderstanding? Then you better explain yourself clearly to clear it up, unless we're not convinced. Still claiming it's a misunderstanding at this point, there must be a good reason for it, right, Mom? Noel pressed. Well, it's just, loneliness. I was lonely, so I did it, Aria admitted. Lonely? So you were bugging us, and you expect us to accept that? I said, incredulous. All this time, Aria's unannounced visits and frequent encounters when we were out were because she had been eavesdropping and monitoring our movements. Unaware of this, I struggled with the invasion of my personal space by Aria and even blamed myself, thinking I had a problem for not being able to handle it well. I had pushed myself almost to my limit, but it was all because Aria had been eavesdropping. I felt a mix of relief that it wasn't my fault and anger towards Aria's actions, which made my tone and attitude towards her naturally harsher. Do you really think that reason is enough for us to be satisfied? What you're doing, Aria, is absolutely inexcusable. Don't you understand that? I demanded. Sierra's right, Mom. We can't accept that reason, and we can't forgive what you've been doing. I hate to say it, but what you're doing is wrong. If things continue like this, we can't have a relationship like before, Noel said firmly. Wait, Noel, I'm your parent. How can you say such terrible things to your own mother? You weren't like this before, were you? Aria's face was like that of a forlorn stray cat seeking pity, but Noel was even colder and more distant. Who's causing this, Mom? You won't admit your own actions, and your reasons are selfish. It's obviously wrong. Enough is enough. We're leaving here. Of course we won't tell you where we're moving. Noel, why? Aria pleaded. Aria, please stop. You've betrayed your own son. Don't you understand how he feels? I added, hoping to make her see reason. It seemed the words from her son deeply shocked Aria. She was visibly shaken and blustered, All I wanted was to hear an apology from Aria for her to admit her wrongdoing and then discuss what to do next. But as soon as I spoke, she glared at me with intense hostility. Quiet, you've been saying whatever you want. It's all because of you that I did this. If you hadn't been here, I wouldn't have had to do any of this. If only you hadn't married Noel. I couldn't comprehend the sudden outburst from Aria. My fault? My fault? I managed to speak, only echoing Aria's words. That's exactly what I mean. If it weren't for you, none of this would have happened. I do not acknowledge you as Noel's wife. You're not suitable. That's what I mean. Why? Why say such things so suddenly? I asked, bewildered. It's a problem that you've lived this long without understanding such things. Realize it. It's true what they say. Children from low-level single-parent homes often have issues. Seeing you has only reinforced that belief. Aria spat. Noel, finally catching up to the situation, hurriedly tried to stop Aria. Mom, what are you saying all of a sudden? Do you realize what you're saying? Yes, I understand perfectly. I thought you would feel constrained by marrying a woman from such a low-level family. That's why I was monitoring to prevent any problems. It's all for your sake, Noel. Aria confessed. We were baffled by Aria's sudden confession, especially Noel, who seemed to be seeing this side of his mother for the first time. He was unsure how to react. My confusion was different from Noel's. I was perplexed by the words Aria had spoken to me. I had heard those words before. Why had Aria spoken them? That was my confusion. Eventually, I remembered something and asked Aria, I heard you were a middle school teacher. Is that true? My seemingly unrelated question caused an exaggerated reaction in Aria, and from her response, something clicked for me. If you were a middle school teacher, you must know many other teachers, right? There's a teacher I can't forget. Is she perhaps an acquaintance of yours? I mentioned a name. Upon hearing it, Aria became visibly shaken and stuttered. Why that name? I thought so. It's connected. Seeing Aria's reaction, I was certain my suspicions were correct. The name I had mentioned was that of my middle school homeroom teacher. I mentioned my middle school homeroom teacher. From your reaction, Aria, it seems you know her. Actually, I was treated terribly by that teacher and got into some trouble. It seems like you've heard about it, haven't you? The trouble with my former teacher was related to my family background. My parents divorced when I was in elementary school, and I was taken in by my mom. My mom always told me that the divorce was due to a personality clash, not because they hated each other. In fact, even after the divorce, my father and I kept in touch regularly. We even had family dinners together several times. Both my parents worked, but they had different life rhythms. There were many mismatches, so they decided it was better to live separately for both of their sakes. Even though they were divorced, I didn't really feel like they were. However, my former homeroom teacher didn't see it that way. She labeled me as a problem child because I came from a single-parent family. Children from low-level single-parent homes are often problematic. I was told directly. No matter how much I tried to explain, she wouldn't listen. To make things worse, she had a troublesome way of managing the class. She believed in uniting the class by targeting one student. By making one student the scapegoat, the rest of the class would come together. She believed in this method, and I became the target. The reason was simple. I was raised in a single-parent family. Perhaps she thought it was okay to do anything to a problematic child like me. Of course, I couldn't accept such reasoning and resisted desperately. Because one of the reasons was my parents' divorce, I couldn't tell them about the treatment I received from the teacher. Resisting as a middle schooler wasn't easy. When I was cornered beyond my capacity, I finally opened up to my parents. I told them how the teacher was treating me. Fortunately, my parents acted quickly upon hearing my story. There was an immediate discussion with my parents and a teacher, and the issue was resolved. The teacher resigned as the class homeroom teacher and left the school unexpectedly in the middle of the year. The issue was resolved quickly after I confided in my parents, but I still remember it vividly. It was that significant of an event. That's why I reacted to Aria's words. If she was acquainted with such a former teacher, I could easily imagine what she had been told about me, but that didn't make me feel any sympathy for Aria. I understood too well what she thought of me. It seems, Aria, you didn't hear the whole story from your acquaintance. If you had, you wouldn't have done such a thing. The whole story. What are you talking about? Aria asked. Yes, I was raised in a single-parent home with my mom. But you might not know that I was frequently in contact with my father. Indeed, my parents divorced due to personality differences, but there was another reason: their work. And by the way, my father is a lawyer. Maybe I'm telling you this for the first time, but I am a lawyer's daughter. Knowing that someone related to legal expertise is involved, you can understand what your actions mean, right? What? No, that's a lie. Who would believe that? Aria exclaimed. My former teacher reacted the same way when I told her. You two are quite similar. I didn't hear anything. I haven't heard such a story, Aria insisted. No, of course, no one shares inconvenient truths with others. It's natural. Aria's attitude changed completely from her earlier confidence. No one could imagine being bugged by someone whose relative is a lawyer. It's obvious how dangerous that would be for oneself. If I tell my father about what you did, you understand what might happen, right? It could become a bigger issue than you think. Stop, please. Don't say that. Please, I beg you. Don't tell anyone about this. Please, I beg you, Aria pleaded. If that's the case, then answer our questions. Okay, yes, I'll answer. Please, I beg of you. So you heard everything about me from that acquaintance? Yes, that's right. When I mentioned your name, they seemed to know, and then they started telling me about it. Yes, I thought if I found a weakness, I could somehow get Noel to divorce you. I see, that's clear now. I thought this was probably her true intention. From Aria's demeanor, it didn't seem like she had anything else to hide. At the same time, I was somewhat shocked to know she thought this way about me. Mom, I have no intention of leaving Sierra, just so you know, Noel said to Aria in a firm tone. I don't understand what you dislike about Sierra or why you did this, and I don't want to know. But Sierra is an important wife and family member to me. Unfortunately, I think it's better if we don't meet anymore to protect my family. That's it. Yes. Aria could barely respond to Noel's clear declaration of cutting ties, understandably overwhelmed by his decision. The next day, at Noel's insistence, we reported the eavesdropping to my father and the police. We also sent a warning to the former teacher through my father. Surprisingly, the former teacher had no knowledge of Aria's actions. However, given that the teacher's remarks had led to the situation, we strongly demanded she never speak of it again. I can imagine how formidable my father must have been in his anger, but she must have been frightened enough of him. We even received a written pledge that she would never involve herself with us again. After ensuring all these matters were resolved, our family moved. We chose a location near Noel's workplace but didn't inform Aria at all. As a precaution, we blocked Aria's contact information. Not just me, but Noel did the same. I heard from neighbors near the in-laws' house that Aria, who had been a longtime educator with a good reputation, became widely known for her deeds when the police got involved. Rumors sparked more rumors, and Aria began to be viewed coldly by everyone in the neighborhood, eventually being left alone. Now, Aria is said to be living alone in her house with no one visiting her, almost unrecognizable from her former self. Even after hearing about Aria's current situation, I had no intention of forgiving her. In my mind, I've resolved to act as if Aria never existed from the start. Now that I have no ties with Aria, I plan to cherish my family even more. My name is Tom, and I'm a 35-year-old man with a happy life now. But my past was filled with drama, and I want to share that story. I have a brilliant younger brother named Nick, who was exceptionally smart, always getting perfect scores in elementary school without studying. Our parents had high hopes that he would get into one of the prestigious private middle schools in the state. On the other hand, no matter how hard I studied, I always scored below average and couldn't improve my grades, especially in math where I consistently scored around 50. People often compared us harshly. They would say, "Oh, Nick is so smart. Why is your brother so dumb? If he scores like this in elementary math, he'll be hopeless by middle school." It was painful to hear, especially since I was trying my best. I remember being proud of scoring 70 in social studies, but my mother dismissed it, saying, "How can you say you did well with scores like this? Stop being stupid. If you were trying, you'd definitely get a perfect score. Maybe you should take a lesson from Nick." My brother mocked me too, saying, "Ha, you're getting scolded. You're really dumb, bro. Even I can solve these problems. Are you really in 6th grade? Maybe you should start over from 1st grade." My mother was always angry when she saw my test results. I dreaded showing her my papers, but if I didn't, she'd get furious. I resented Nick for his constant mocking and the way our parents spoiled him. He didn't respect me at all and only thought about making fun of me. To me, he wasn't cute at all, and I wished he would disappear. It often felt like I was the one who wasn't needed in our house. Both my mom and dad would say things like it would be better if I wasn't around, which deeply hurt me as a child. When I went to middle school, the studies were hard, but I made some good friends, which brought me some contentment. I particularly grew close to a classmate named Jake. His family lived modestly, and his mom loved him dearly. I envied the warmth in their home. Jake's mom always offered me snacks when I visited, and she treated everyone equally with a smile. This was very different from my parents, who ran a business with my dad as the president and my mom handling the office work. Despite being the son of a president, I never felt loved. Although we were well off, I felt they spent more money on my brother. For instance, during field trips, when the school allowed us to buy snacks up to $3, I received $1. But my brother got $10. He enjoyed being the king, handing out snacks to everyone in class. I realized early on that money isn't everything when it comes to happiness. During the summer vacation of my 3rd year in middle school, I wanted to improve my weak subjects, math and science, by attending a summer course at a tutoring center. I asked my mom for help. "Mom, I need a favor. There's a summer course at the tutoring center by the station. They said you don't have to be a regular student to attend. If you take 5 subjects, you get a discount." "What? A summer course? We don't have money for that. Spending money on you is a waste when we could spend it on Nick," she replied. "Please let me go. I'll study hard." "You're going to drop out of school and work, so you don't need to study. Congratulations, now you're free from your weak subjects." "Wait, what do you mean?" "It means you're going to drop out of school and work for our company. Don't you get it? Spending time and money on high school for you is a waste. Instead, you should work hard." "No, I want to go to high school too." "Hey bro, don't be so selfish. You're making mom upset. You're not that smart anyway, so middle school is good enough for you. You're just a failure, so you should work for us," Nick chimed in. "Nick, you," I was furious and slammed the living room door, retreating to my room. Devastated by what mom said and humiliated by my brother, I couldn't even decide my own future. Tears flowed as I felt growing hatred toward my brother and mistrust toward my parents. In the winter of my 3rd year in middle school, while everyone was studying hard for high school entrance exams, I knew it was too late for me. I just stared blankly at the clouds. "Hey, I heard you're going to drop out and work," a classmate said. "Yeah, my parents want me to join their company." "Well, your dad is the president." "Yeah, but they told me I wasn't worth sending to high school, that it would be a waste of money." "That's tough. I thought about working right away to help my mom. She pushed herself too hard and got sick." "Is your mom okay?" "The doctor told her not to strain herself. Her heart isn't good." "That's terrible, Tom. Don't look so sad. Let's show them what we can do. Some people look down on us for dropping out, so let's prove them wrong. Let's work hard and believe that we'll be rewarded someday." "You're right. Sorry, I shouldn't act like I'm the only one with problems. Everyone has their own struggles. I know it's tough for you too, but don't give up no matter what." "Yeah, I'll keep fighting." "You too, Jake." Even though Jake was in a tough situation, he always encouraged me to keep going. He encouraged me, and I felt grateful. I had always felt like I was the only one suffering, and it made me a bit ashamed. Determined not to be outdone by Jake, I decided to work harder and stay positive. Maybe someday good things would come my way too. Even though my parents still treated me coldly and spoiled my brother, I decided to ignore it. When I stopped reacting to my brother's annoying comments, he eventually stopped bothering me. He probably thought it was no fun if I didn't respond. In April, I started working at my parents' company as a new middle school graduate. My dad was harsh, treating me like a rag and giving me all the tough tasks. He dumped all the work that other employees used to do on me. When I asked him questions, he'd just yell, "You still don't get it. How many times do I have to teach you, you idiot? No excuses. This is why you're useless. Just finish the job and get back to work." Years passed and I turned 30. Nick graduated from a prestigious private middle and high school and went to a good university, but he didn't look for a job and just stayed home. To me, he was just an unemployed college graduate. "I'm studying to make money with stocks, so I don't need to work," he would say. But hey, there's no guarantee it'll work, right? Nah, with my brains, it'll be a piece of cake. Just stay quiet, bro. My brother continued to laze around at home even after graduating from college, but my parents didn't scold him. They just said, "He'll make it big someday," sounding carefree. I doubted that would ever happen, but saying anything to them was useless, so I decided not to warn my parents. One morning, while I was working at the company, I suddenly heard a crash. Turning to see where the sound came from, I saw my dad had collapsed. Dad, dear, help. Call an ambulance." We called an ambulance immediately, but my dad passed away shortly after arriving at the hospital. It was a heart attack. Dad had been overweight and had been told he had poor heart health, but he continued his unhealthy habits, which probably led to the massive heart attack that killed him. Mom cried loudly, and my brother, who rushed over, turned pale. But strangely, I didn't feel sad. I felt relieved that one thing that tied me down was gone. Maybe I'm an ungrateful person, but only someone raised by toxic parents would understand. Even during the funeral, I didn't feel sad at all. Because of that, my mom berated me, calling me the worst son. After a week, Mom called me and my brother. "Sit down, I need to talk to you." "Okay," I replied. "All right," Nick added. "With your father gone, we need to think about the company. Nick, you'll take over the company. Your useless brother is fired as of today." "What?" I exclaimed. "Got it. Nick will leave the company from now on," my brother responded. "But I want to keep studying stocks. I'm begging you, only you can be the president." "I can't refuse if you ask like that, Mom. But can I study stocks when I have free time?" "Of course." "Wait a minute. I've dedicated myself to this company and now you're firing me and making Nick the new president? That's unfair." "What? Did you think you could be the president? You only have a middle school education. There's no way you can be the president. Don't make me laugh." "A middle school education. But you and Dad were the ones who made me give up high school. It's unfair to mock me for that." "How dare you talk to me like that? I gave birth to you. How can you say such things to me?" "But enough. You're leaving this house. We don't need you." I was in shock from everything she said. I had worked tirelessly for the company like a worker ant, and this was how I was treated. I couldn't stand her saying she gave birth to me. Even at my age, I didn't want to think like a child. But I thought it was wrong for parents to say, "I gave birth to you," or "I raised you." Having children is a form of self-satisfaction, so I didn't like the condescending, "I did this for you" attitude. If I ever have kids, I wouldn't want to say things like that to them. After being told so much by my mom, I decided I would leave the house. I went back to my room, packed my things, and decided to take only the essentials. I had nowhere specific to go, but I figured I could stay at a business hotel while looking for an apartment. Leaving the house, I checked into a nearby business hotel. The space without my mom and brother felt peaceful. There was no one to bother me or say mean things. As I lounged in my room, I thought about my classmate Jake. I wondered how he was doing. I hadn't been in touch for a long time, so I gave him a call. "Hey Jake, how's it going over there?" "While the factory I was working at just shut down." "What?" "Actually, my dad passed away, and I got kicked out of the company afterward." "Wait, your dad died?" "Yeah, but strangely, I didn't feel sad. Does that make me a bad son?" "Well, you said your parents always disliked you and treated you unfairly. Maybe it's understandable. So what did you do after getting kicked out?" "My mom said she was giving the company to my brother and fired me. Then she kicked me out of the house too. But I guess it's time I left anyway." "I see. Hey, why don't we start something together?" "Huh? Let's build something from scratch, our own company." "But can we really do that?" "Yeah, let's do it." So I called Jake to a cafe. We talked about many things there. Jake said that if our company made a big profit, it would really help him out. His mom still wasn't in good health, so he needed to work to support her. Fortunately, I had a decent amount of money saved, so we made plans. First, we secured a place to live. We consulted a lawyer Jake knew and got everything in order. We worked quickly, and soon our company was established. Our company was right across the street from my family's company with a big flashy sign. My mom and brother were shocked to see me entering and exiting the building. "Are you the one renting this place?" "Yeah, that's right." "But isn't the rent here really high?" "We have raised enough funds so we can afford it." "How did you get the money?" From YouTube. I posted stories about toxic parents and they got a lot of views. Wait, are you talking about me? Maybe. This huge sign and this place were featured in an interview before the industry. Yeah, it's a comics publishing company. I knew it. I'm not good at writing or drawing, but I'm confident in coming up with ideas. I always loved comics as a kid and wanted to be a comics artist, but my drawing skills were terrible. Then I thought about becoming a novelist, but I didn't have a knack for writing either. No matter how hard I tried, my writing was at an elementary school level, but I was good at coming up with ideas. I was always the one coming up with ideas for drama class. I wanted to pursue a creative career and go to an art school, but I had to drop out of middle school and gave up. But I realized that an academic background doesn't matter. My favorite YouTuber, who does illustrations, also dropped out of middle school, so I knew it was possible even without a diploma. However, I didn't want to become a YouTuber myself, so I posted scandalous content just to raise funds, and it got some traction. There were troll comments and condescending remarks, but I thought they must have a lot of free time. Thanks for watching. I kept posting. With the funds I earned, I started a comics publishing company. Even though my company was a comics publisher, it was different from boys or girls comics. We specialized in what are called ladies comics, which are popular among housewives. Usually, women would come up with the stories or the writers would create them from scratch. But most of our works were based on my ideas. When it got out that a man was coming up with these dramatic, female-oriented storylines, it attracted media attention. Although I didn't show my face, the company quickly became famous. Our debut hit, ***, abandoned by toxic parents, Jessica's Revenge ***, was a huge success. The story began with the protagonist Jessica working after dropping out of middle school and being exploited by her parents. It resonated deeply with readers. You're the president of this company, so you were behind those weird comics? My brother Nick asked. Yeah, they're my passionate creations. You jerk, you made me the evil sister character. I never said the character was based on you. It's not defamation or slander. Don't play dumb. Anyone who sees it can tell it's me. I didn't make it that obvious, so no one knows it's you. Besides, shouldn't you be the one worrying about being sued for defamation and slander? What do you mean? Thanks for leaving those hateful comments on my YouTube channel with your real name. I've already filed a disclosure request. Wait, please. I'm glad I have a lawyer friend thanks to Jake. Friends are invaluable. No way. What will happen to me? I don't know. You'll probably be held accountable. That's all I know. My brother didn't know it was my channel and would smugly leave comments using offensive language and saying things like, "The uploader is an idiot." I was going to ignore it, but I decided to teach him a lesson and file the disclosure request. People who think they can do whatever they want in an anonymous world are in the wrong. My brother turned pale and started trembling. I thought he might even wet himself, and I couldn't help but smile. Well, I have a meeting with a comics artist, so I'll get going. Wait. See you. I have to go make even more money. I'm so busy. I ignored my mother and went into the office. Jake and I had a meeting with a comics artist. She was a new artist but was great at drawing dramatic scenes, so I suggested the idea for her next project. Tom, you're really good at coming up with ideas. I struggle with that, so I look up to you. But I can't draw or write well, so I rely on the comics artists. Even the YouTube content was outsourced to writers. That channel really got a lot of attention. People love dramatic stories, huh? Yeah, it shows how stressed people are these days. Those who love dramatic stories might be dealing with stress in their personal lives. It's our job to help them release that stress. Modern life is definitely stressful. Jake, you've been a big help. You're great at catching details and spotting typos quickly. Well, I did work at a printing factory. I'm a big picture person, so I'm not good with details. That's why I'm not great at spotting typos. But Jake makes up for that. Since Jake used to work at a printing factory, he's really good at finding typos and mistakes. So far, we haven't had any misprints. If we did, it would have been a disservice to our readers. Our publishing house is still small, so to build trust, we need to accumulate a track record steadily. That's why we put a lot of care into our work, making sure there are no mistakes in our comics. Since then, my brother had to face the consequences. He was fined for both defamation and slander. The amount wasn't significant, but my brother couldn't pay and begged for forgiveness on his knees. That idiot lost a lot of money in failed stock investments. I had no intention of forgiving him, so I told him if begging worked, we wouldn't need the police or lawyers. Eventually, our family company went bankrupt. It was because my brother used the company's funds for his stock investments. If he hadn't done such stupid things, this wouldn't have happened. But I had no obligation to help him anymore. I decided to live as if I had no family. But at 33, I had a significant encounter. I was looking for new comics artists, and a 28-year-old woman came to us. She had sent her work to various publishers, but hadn't received any responses. She had felt uneasy about creating dramatic ladies' comics, but after reading our works, she wanted to give it a try. Our works weren't just about revenge. The key point was that the protagonist ended up happy. It was essentially a Cinderella story, and these types of comics were becoming popular. I didn't watch much drama, but I heard that Korean dramas often followed this pattern. Korean cosmetics, idols, and dramas were trending among women in their 20s. So I started studying Korean dramas. They turned out to be quite useful, and I came up with the idea for ***, the ugly duckling who became a princess after plastic surgery ***. Since Korean cosmetic surgery and makeup are famous, having the protagonist transform in Korea worked well. Yeah, I thought it would be interesting if everyone treated her differently when she returned to the States. I want a scene where everyone turns to look at her, I explained to Emily, the artist. I see she becomes so beautiful that people do a double take. At the beginning, she should be portrayed as terribly ugly to the point of being pitiable. But her personality is kind and good-hearted, Emily suggested. Understood. The bullies should be average-looking, not ugly, but not particularly pretty either. Oh, and the protagonist should also have liposuction, I added. Oh, I know people who went to Korea for liposuction too. Then she could become fabulously fit. She could become a legendary hostess and earn a lot of money. Then her mean former classmates could come in as customers. That sounds great, but she doesn't reveal her identity as they hit on her without realizing who she is. How about that? That's a great idea, Jake. It's really interesting, Emily said. Thanks. Do you think we could add some mature scenes? This is aimed at women in their 30s. Sure, something for working women who are tired from their jobs. Exactly, women who feel frustrated, and by reading the conclusion, feel inspired to keep going. Not just revenge, but the protagonist achieving happiness on her own. Got it. I'll give it a try, Emily agreed. Emily was excited and created ***, the ugly duckling who became a princess after plastic surgery ***. The kind but extremely unattractive protagonist, Sarah, is a bullied girl. Not only is she ugly, but she's also chubby, so she's constantly mocked by her classmates in high school. She is despised by the boys, and when she confesses her love to a boy by writing a letter, he throws it away. Devastated, Sarah works hard and travels to Korea alone. There, she undergoes full-body plastic surgery. She gets liposuction, changes her nose, eyes, and jaw, and transforms into a stunning beauty. Upon her return to the States, she is so beautiful that people do a double take at the airport. Sarah leverages her beauty to become the top hostess. In no time, she has interactions with her former classmates and eventually meets her true love. The comic became a bestseller, and our small publishing company grew significantly. Eventually, the comic was adapted into a TV drama with a famous actress playing Sarah. They used special effects to depict her ugly phase and her beautiful hostess phase. I treated Emily to a meal to thank her for her hard work. Emily enjoyed spending time with me, and I was glad that I asked her out. We began to go on more dates and got to know each other better. The more I got to know Emily, the more I wanted to confess my feelings to her. However, I was a high school dropout. Emily had graduated from an art university, and I thought she wouldn't be interested in someone like me. But I decided to take the plunge and confess. Jake encouraged me, saying, "If you like her, you should go for it," which gave me the courage. "Emily, there's something I want to tell you." "What is it?" she asked. I want you to seriously consider our future together." "Are you saying that you were thinking about marriage?" "Yes. I'm a middle school dropout without much education, but I want to be with you from now on. I can't lie to myself anymore. Emily, I would love to marry you in the future, so please date me seriously." Thank you. I've been wanting the same thing. What? I've been happy to be more than just work partners with you, Emily replied. Emily gladly accepted my proposal. I felt relieved that I had expressed my feelings. Emily didn't mind that I was a middle school dropout and said that everyone has their own path in life. I was thrilled and grateful that Emily was my girlfriend. Then we had our wedding. I was 34 at the time. My parents and brother didn't come to the wedding, but Jake, my business partner and good friend, celebrated with us, and so did our employees. Most importantly, I was happy to be accepted by Emily's parents. Even after marrying me, Emily continued to work hard as a comics artist. Though she struggled with coming up with ideas, her artwork was excellent. She drew captivating images, and I thought she had immense talent. Many works were created with my story ideas and Emily's drawings. Jake also managed other artists and nurtured many of them. Our company grew steadily and became well known in the ladies' comics market. Just before my 35th birthday, Emily seemed unwell. I thought it might have been something she ate. But then she said, "Actually, I've been told I'm expecting." "What? We're having a baby. You're going to be a father." "Me? A father?" "Yes, you're going to be a dad." "I'm so happy. That's amazing," I said, overwhelmed with emotion. I lifted Emily up and put my ear to her stomach. I couldn't hear anything yet, but I imagined the baby growing and moving inside her. I was excited to meet our child and looked forward to it every day. When I was 35, Emily went into labor. Emily gave her all and delivered a healthy baby boy. I couldn't believe such a beautiful little being existed, and I held him with tears streaming down my face. From now on, my life wasn't just my own anymore. I had to live my best for my wife, Emily, and our son. No matter what hardships came our way, I knew I could endure them for their sake. This was my determination as a man and my pride as a father. Even though I grew up with toxic parents, I worried whether I could truly show love to my child. But I think I'm doing okay. Taking care of a child is definitely challenging, but watching him grow each day fills me with love. I never understood why my parents treated my brother and me so differently. Sure, my brother was smarter and more charming, and they probably found him more likable. But even if we have another child, I know I could never abandon one over the other, even if one seemed less capable. I'll use my parents as an example of what not to do and strive to be the best parent I can be. Since we both work, Emily and I plan to support each other in raising our child. Jake also found a girlfriend, and they're planning to get married soon. I hope for a world where those who endure hardships are eventually rewarded. I heard a splat and turned towards the sound. There, sticking to my mom's cheek as she sat across from me, was a smashed dumpling. She wiped her face with a napkin, trying to appear unfazed, but her expression was filled with disgust. "You're Sarah Murphy, handling foreign currency deposits at the New York bank, aren't you?" "Yes, that's me." "You don't seem to have dementia. You keep up with part-time work, right?" "I'll remember you well until tomorrow," my mom said, then quietly stood up and walked away briskly ahead of me. My name is Jessica Jones, a 29-year-old office worker. Since graduating from college, I dedicated myself to my job and didn't date much. But a few months ago, I got a boyfriend named Charlie who was the same age as me. He was introduced to me by a colleague. Although he had a steady job as a banker, he was nice, gentle, and polite to everyone, which made me feel comfortable with him. I secretly thought to myself that I would like to marry someone like him, but I felt it was too early to introduce him to my mom. "I'm Charlie. I've been dating Jessica for 3 months now." "Nice to meet you." "Thank you for your polite greeting. You are a good man, too good for my daughter." My mom smiled as she watched Charlie's polite greeting and his trembling hands presenting a gift. "Jessica is really kind and hardworking. I'm the one who's undeserving." "Is that so?" "She used to be such a klutz, a tomboy with short hair when she was little." "Oh right, would you like to see her album?" "Really? I would love to see it. Wait a moment, Mom." My mom welcomed Charlie, and the three of us had a delightful dinner that day. After that, Charlie and I often visited my mom's house together. My dad passed away when I was a little girl, and my mom raised me as a single parent. "Your happiness is my happiness, Jessica. Thank you for introducing Charlie to me," she would say, genuinely happy for my well-being. Seeing her happy face made me happy too. However, taking Charlie to see my mom too often made me worry that it might seem like I was pressuring him into marriage. I was considering marriage with Charlie, but I wasn't sure how he felt about it. When I told Charlie after visiting my mom alone, he said, "If you were going to your mom's, you should have told me." I was worried about her since she was feeling a bit under the weather last time, and I wanted to see her face. Plus, I wanted to talk about the movie she recommended. It turned out Charlie and my mom were getting along better than I thought. Given my mom's calm and gentle nature, they probably just clicked well. With work going smoothly and good relationships with my lover and family, I began to wonder if my life was going too well. 6 months into our relationship, Charlie said, "Jessica, for Mother's Day next month, shall we go out to eat? Just the three of us? There's a place I want to take you both. If you have plans just for the family, we can go another time." Really? I love the idea, Charlie. Mom will be thrilled for sure. So we decided to go out for dinner on Mother's Day. I thought about inviting my sister, but she was married and had little children, so we settled on just the three of us. "Oh, I recognize this place. I love the Chinese food here." "Really? You knew about this restaurant?" "Sure, I used to come here often. But Charlie, you really know your stuff, finding a place I like." Charlie blushed with the compliment. Having never been to this restaurant, I followed Charlie and my mom's lead. The restaurant was adorned with chandeliers and large lanterns, showcasing luxurious decorations. A waiter stood tall next to a large swivel table. I understood that this was a high-end Chinese restaurant. "Then please bring us the special course I ordered," Charlie said calmly to the waiter, watched by my mom with a beaming smile. I was probably the only one feeling nervous in this situation. As we were tucking into the dishes being laid out one after another, the aroma of dumplings filled the air. Then, from behind me, a high-pitched woman's voice rang out, "Right. What are you doing here? You are Sarah." Charlie's face turned pale in an instant. I turned around to see a smirking woman standing with her arms crossed. "So you left our bank and had the nerve to come here? You must have settled for a small regional bank, huh? Can you even afford this?" Charlie stopped his chopsticks and looked down slightly. "That's none of your concern, Sarah. Besides, we are in the middle of a precious dinner, so please stop." Charlie's voice trembled slightly. "My apologies for interrupting your precious dinner," Sarah said, scrutinizing my mom and me with a lingering look. I met her gaze. "Excuse me, may I ask who you are?" Sarah laughed again. "I'm Sarah Murphy, a former supervisor of Charlie at New York Bank." Sarah seemed to take pride in her association with her workplace. "Oh, New York Bank, as in the major one." My mom looked at Sarah with surprise, which was understandable since New York Bank is one of the biggest banks. Working there implied a high level of prestige. As we were struck dumb, Sarah let out a derisive laugh. "Look at you, amazed just because I work at New York Bank. How low have you fallen to dine with such a poor family?" When Sarah said that, Charlie, who usually spoke slowly, spoke louder. "How can you say such things to my loved ones? You should take back your words." Sarah continued to snicker even as Charlie grew angry. I tried to calm Charlie down for the moment. It was the first time I heard of Charlie working at New York Bank, but I knew he had changed jobs due to harassment from a superior at his previous bank. He had been pursued by a married woman who was his mentor at the bank where he first worked. When Charlie firmly rejected her advances, she started to blame him for her mistakes and even deliberately lost documents he was responsible for, subjecting him to severe bullying. Eventually, Charlie couldn't endure the harassment and resigned. This was the woman who was Charlie's new employee mentor. "So, you're the one who drove Charlie to resign?" "What are you talking about? I just honestly reported to the boss that Charlie couldn't do his job. I was merely fulfilling my duties as a mentor for dropouts," Sarah said with a smirk. "You were just his new employee mentor, but you were very close to him," I replied. My words made Sarah pause momentarily. She seemed to realize that Charlie had told me everything. Then she blinked and furrowed her brow. "Who are you talking to? I'm a different class of person from you people." "How are we different in class?" "We are entirely different. An elite like me working in the foreign currency deposit department of a major bank, a man who has dropped out of the elite and works hard all his life for little pay, a woman working for some dirty small to medium enterprise, and an old hag who works part-time. I'm not someone you can casually chat with." Sarah's harsh words naturally made my jaw clench and my teeth grind. She looked at us and laughed heartily. "I feel sick sharing a meal in the same place as you. I'll forgive Charlie for old time's sake, but can this low-class family leave now?" I was at my breaking point and almost slammed my napkin on the table. But my mom stopped me. We will leave once we finish our meal. Please go back to your seat without minding us. Your food will get cold. Looking at her table, there was only one set of dishes laid out. My mom's words implied, eat alone and be miserable. Considering the conversation over, we turned back to our table and picked up our chopsticks again. Then out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow hastily reaching for a plate. You guys are a burden on society. The next moment, I heard a splat. Turning towards the sound, I saw a smashed dumpling sticking to my mom's cheek. Old hags and poor folks should stay away. Hey, how terrible. How could you do that? Are you okay, Mom? I'm so sorry, Charlie said. He was about to call the restaurant staff when my mom stopped him. It's not right to throw food, especially something so hot. While she wiped her face with a napkin, trying to remain calm, her expression was full of disgust. Sarah laughed loudly at this sight. Let's just leave. This meal is ruined anyway. You're Sarah Murphy from New York Bank, handling foreign currency deposits, right? That's correct. It seems you don't have to worry about dementia yet. Keep up with your part-time work. My mom said this with a forced smile. Sure, I will remember you well until tomorrow. After saying that, my mom silently stood up and walked away briskly. Her cheek was red, so we decided to stop by a doctor for treatment on our way home. Charlie apologized many times for the day's events, but my mom, with a smile, said, It's not your fault, Charlie. No need to apologize anymore. And she forgave him generously. I was curious about my mom's words, but their meaning became clear the next day. While I was at work, taking my lunch break, I received a call from Charlie. He usually didn't call during the day, so thinking something must have happened, I quickly answered. Charlie's voice was trembling. Who the hell is your mom? What are you talking about? I received a strange call this morning. The content was bizarre, but it seems my seniors already know about it. Charlie was panicking, his thoughts jumbled as he spoke. Unable to understand what Charlie was trying to say in his panic, I decided to listen to his story after work. We decided that if it involved my mom, we would talk to her as well. So we headed to my mom's house. Hi Jessica, Charlie, what is it? Craving my baked potato again. Baked potato. I love those, but no, that's not why we're here. Was it you who called my bank expressing interest in doing business? Really? Is that true, Mom? While tying her apron, my mom smiled mischievously. That's right. I'd like to do business with your bank from now on, my dear banker. Charlie looked utterly flabbergasted. Charlie, what business? As I asked, Charlie took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. Then the doorbell rang. Just in time. Come on, you two, join us. What? When my mom opened the door, a tall man followed by a smaller, hunched-over Sarah stood there. Why is the president of New York Bank here? The man sweating and offering a luxurious gift appeared to be the president of New York Bank. We are here because of the sudden account closure. What has happened? I have decided never to do business with your bank again. My mom stated with an unusually sharp tone, uncharacteristic of her usual gentle demeanor. The president was in a panic, his shirt collar soaked with sweat. My eyes met Sarah's, but she quickly turned away. Please let us know if there is anything we can do. However, we earnestly request you to reconsider the cancellation of the $150 million deposit. So the phone call I received this morning wasn't a lie, Charlie murmured, eyes widening in realization. You were the ones who refused, right? Sarah Murphy, you said our classes as people are different, that you feel sick being in the same space as someone lower class like me. Then you wouldn't want to hold on to my money either. That's not what I meant. Sarah struggled for words, her eyes darting around. The bank president turned sharply towards her. Did you say that? Do you not know who this woman is? She is Carol Jones, one of the top 3 investors in the USA. A legendary figure indeed. My mom was a well-known legendary investor with a net worth of several billions of dollars. She had entrusted $150 million for management to New York Bank. However, due to the incident with Sarah, she decided to cancel this deposit. Realizing the gravity of her actions, Sarah trembled. What are you doing? Apologize to her. The president forced Sarah to apologize. I am truly sorry, Sarah said, bowing deeply. My mom watched them apologize with quiet disdain. No, I will not forgive you. As I have already decided and mentioned on the phone today, please transfer my deposit to the designated bank by the end of this month. I am so sorry. Please, I beg you to reconsider. I didn't know who you were and was rude, but such an incident will never happen again. If you judge people by their appearance and act so rudely towards them, then I can't trust you, my mom replied coldly. Sarah swallowed hard at my mom's sharp words, collapsing to her knees. Please, I'm really sorry. I was astonished to see two adults, Sarah and a president, in suits apologizing profusely to my mom. However, my mom did not nod in agreement at all. Sarah, realizing she was not forgiven, looked up, then made eye contact with me and Charlie. She crawled over. What are you doing, Jessica? Charlie, I'm so sorry. Please forgive my rudeness. Sarah continued to apologize loudly, dripping with sweat. Then she gave a creepy smile and started talking to us. I never thought Charlie would be dating such a high-class daughter. You are something. Birds of a feather flocked together. Charlie's brows furrowed naturally upon hearing Sarah's words. The president then asked, "Excuse me, do Charlie and Sarah know each other?" Sarah visibly paled at the president's question. Charlie clenched his fist tightly and took a deep breath. Yes, I used to work at the New York bank a few years ago. Sarah here was my new employee mentor. Is that so? Well, if you're interested, would you consider working at New York Bank again? We can certainly offer you a very good position, the president suggested, his smile similar to Sarah's. After a brief silence, Charlie looked straight at the president and said, "No, thank you. I don't want to be part of a system where mentors force affairs, and I will never return to a bank where junior employees take responsibility for their boss's mistakes. Forcing affairs and taking the fall for mistakes. Sarah, can you explain this?" The president's face turned red, while Sarah turned deathly pale. Well, do you realize what would happen to our bank if this comes to light? The president stammered. However, I realized his concern wasn't just about the bank. His anger was different from that of a boss scolding his employee. It was a look of contempt and sadness directed at Sarah. Excuse me if I'm mistaken, but could it be that you, the president, also have something with Sarah? I asked. The president looked down quietly, and then drops of water, different from sweat, fell to the floor. You said I was the one you were meant to be with. We are both married, but it was just that we met too late, he muttered. I was speechless at the shocking turn of events. While we were taken aback, the president confronted Sarah, who had been having affairs at work despite being married. Moreover, she was using these affairs not just as flings but to advance her career. Sarah just hung her head in shame. The president was devastated by the shock of learning the truth. I felt a rush of anger. You sure looked down on us, didn't you? Well, I have a prestigious education and landed a job at New York Bank, and you think engaging in such despicable acts makes you polite? I just wanted to climb the career ladder. Sarah's eyes darted around, searching for an excuse. You just admitted that you're incompetent and can't do your job well. You judge us solely by our appearance, calling us poor. But no matter how excellent your education or career might be, what you've done is morally bankrupt. Now you will face the consequences. After a moment of silence, my mom chuckled and clapped her hands loudly once. That's the end of that. Don't come to my house anymore and don't contact me unless it's to arrange the payment. Now, if you understand, please leave. The president walked away listlessly, followed by Sarah. After they left through the front door, I watched them go for a while, their auras heavy and gloomy. Afterward, my mom's $150 million deposit was successfully transferred to the bank where Charlie works, and the matter was settled for the time being. Charlie's reputation at the bank improved due to this, and it seems certain he will be promoted in 6 months. On the other hand, according to a former colleague of Charlie, Sarah was fired after the incident. Her sudden dismissal became a topic of conversation among the bank employees, sparking rumors that something had happened. Then someone well informed about the affair between the president and Sarah exposed it within the bank. Furthermore, the wives of her other married lovers demanded alimony from Sarah. As a result, her affairs were revealed to her husband, leading to her divorce. Sarah was in debt for alimony payments and had lost her family. She confessed her affair with the president to the president's wife herself, saying, "It's not fair that I'm the only one who's unhappy." The wife calmly dealt with the confession and demanded alimony from Sarah. After this backfired and she accumulated more debt, no one has seen Sarah since. 3 months have passed since then. This Chinese food is always so delicious, but it would have been nice to make up for Mother's Day after all, my mom said. Charlie and Jessica weren't at fault, but we couldn't finish the meal that time. Right, this is my way of making it up too, Charlie added. We returned to the high-end Chinese restaurant to make up for that day, the three of us dining together again. We just hope for more peaceful days like these. By the way, Charlie, even if you and Jessica break up, I have no intention of changing the person in charge of my deposit. I dislike relationships where love isn't judged fairly. Hey Mom, what are you talking about? We're not held together by convenience. If we break up, it'll be clean and clear, right? Charlie's face turned red, even though he hadn't drunk any alcohol. I vow this. Unless Jessica dislikes me, we won't separate, Charlie said passionately. Right, Charlie. You are passionate, just like Jessica's dad when he was young, my mom said with a smile. As I listened to this conversation, I looked in the mirror decorating the restaurant and saw my face had turned the same color as Charlie's, even though I hadn't drunk any alcohol. Hey, I'm Sandra. Let me take you back to where it all began. Life was always just me and my mom, Trina, a dynamic duo since as far back as I can remember. My dad left us when I was very young, so my memories of him are hazy and few. Growing up, it was always just the two of us against the world. We weren't rich, but my mom worked tirelessly to ensure we had a roof over our heads and food on the table. Our small apartment in a quiet neighborhood was home, and I loved it. I never knew what it was like to have a fatherly presence around. My mom was my hero. After high school, I decided to stay close to home and attend the local community college. I couldn't bear the thought of leaving my mom alone after everything she had done for me. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my life, but I figured I'd sort that out along the way. Life wasn't glamorous, but it was comfortable and it was ours. Things were going well, and I eventually got a job as the manager of a local bookstore. It wasn't the most thrilling job, but it paid the bills, and I had a passion for books, so it felt like a good fit. My mom was over the moon when I started bringing home a paycheck. It was like a weight had been lifted off her shoulders. Then came Peter. I met him when I was 23 in one of those chance encounters you never expect to turn into something big. He walked into the bookstore one day while I was busy arranging a shelf. He asked for a book recommendation, and we got talking. Things just happened naturally from there. Peter and I hit it off incredibly well, and we felt a connection that was almost electric. Everything seemed to fall into place. Eventually, Peter decided it was time for me to meet his mother, Donna. I had heard so much about her from Peter, and I was a little nervous. He arranged for us to have dinner at her house, so I decided to bring a homemade pie, hoping to make a good impression. Oh, Sandra, so lovely to finally meet you. You brought pie? How charming. Thanks, Donna. I thought you might enjoy it. Mom, Ella's a fantastic baker. You'll love it. Well, let's hope it tastes as good as it looks. So, Sandra, speaking of family, how was your family life? I heard it's just you and your mother, Trina, and no father in the picture. Isn't that sad? Well, my mom and I are very close. We've always been there for each other. So, Ella, your mom isn't remarried? No, she isn't. Well, maybe she's the problematic one. You shouldn't blame your dad for leaving, you know. Sometimes kids fail to see things the way they are. Mom, I've met Ella. She's a wonderful woman. Son, I'm going to be honest with you. In my opinion, single women often raise the most problematic daughters. I call it like I see it. They raise their daughters to be bossy. And Peter, weren't you into blondes? Sandra here is a brunette, not very attractive in my eyes. Your ex-girlfriend was studying at an Ivy League school or something, and Sandra runs a bookstore. This seems like quite a downgrade. Mom, I didn't choose Sandra based on her job or education. I chose her because of the person she is. Your dad and I worked hard to ensure you could go to a good college, and now this is the kind of woman you bring home. No offense, Sandra. But there might be someone out there for you too, but it's just not my son. After that awkward dinner with Donna, Peter apologized to me repeatedly for her behavior. He felt genuinely sorry that his mother was so critical, but I assured him that our love was strong and wouldn't be easily shaken by someone's words. I knew my mother-in-law could be tough to deal with, but I was determined not to let it get in the way of our relationship. In any relationship, it's crucial to take a stand when needed, but I also believe in being respectful. Peter and I were deeply in love, and we were confident in our decision to be together. We didn't need anyone's approval but our own to know that we were right for each other. Over time, Peter and I grew even closer, and our love blossomed. He started talking about our future together, and not long after, he asked me to marry him. When it came time to plan our wedding, Peter and I discussed the guest list and decided to invite Donna and a couple of Peter's close friends. Unfortunately, Peter had lost his dad, and he didn't have many guests from his dad's side, so the guest list was small. A few months before the wedding, we shared our engagement news with Donna, and I could sense she wasn't too thrilled about it, but that didn't deter us from inviting her. We decided to visit her at her house to personally extend the invitation. "Hi, Donna. We wanted to talk to you about our wedding." "Oh, the wedding, huh? Mom, we'd really love for you to be there." "Yes, it's such an important day for us, and we want you to be a part of it." "Well, isn't that sweet, but honestly, I've got other things to do." "Sandra, sweetie, you don't really know what you're getting into with my son." "Mom, please. Ella's amazing and I love her. I want you to see that. You are my mom. You seriously wouldn't miss my wedding, would you?" "Donna, we may have our differences, but this day is about love. We would love to have you there. I'm just not sure it's a good idea, you know." Donna not showing up at our wedding was a real bummer. Let me tell you, we made every effort to get Donna to our wedding. We called her countless times, but she couldn't be bothered. Peter's friends and family were there, but we could see the disappointment in his eyes. He tried to keep his spirits up, but his mom's absence was clearly weighing on him. It's tough when your spouse is feeling low and there's not much you can do to lift their spirits. Despite everything, Peter insisted we go ahead with the ceremony. He wouldn't let a no-show ruin our day, even if it was his mother. Fast forward 6 months into our marriage and Donna was still keeping her distance. It was like she had made a conscious choice to pretend we didn't exist. It was tough for Peter, and I could see it in his behavior, but he never blamed me. Peter's birthday rolled around and we tried to throw a small family gathering to mark the occasion. We reached out to Donna, but she turned us down without any explanation. Peter was obviously hurt by his mom skipping his birthday. I remember those weekends when I used to visit my mom regularly. It had always been just the two of us, and I felt a deep sense of responsibility toward her. I could sense Peter's desire to see his own mom, but he couldn't. In a strange way, I felt like the blame was on me, like I was the reason he couldn't have that bond with his mother. The bond between a mother and her children is something truly special, and it pained me to think that I might have unintentionally taken that away from Peter and Donna. "Peter, honey, I can't help but feel responsible for the distance between you and your mom. It's like she's avoiding you because of me." "Sandra, you can't blame yourself for my mom's actions. It's her choice to be distant. She has her own reasons, but it seems that she can't accept our relationship. It's affecting you, and I hate seeing you like this. I know it's tough, but it's not your fault. I love you, and I wouldn't want it any other way. We'll figure this out together. I just want you to have the relationship you deserve with your mom." I decided it was time to take matters into my own hands. I couldn't bear to see Peter suffer because of his strained relationship with his mom. So one day, without telling Peter, I headed over to Donna's place. I was determined to have a woman-to-woman conversation with her, hoping to ask her to give me a chance. "Donna, it's been over 6 months. Don't you miss your son? He's been missing you. Your son was really hurt when you didn't show up at our wedding or his birthday. I understand you might not approve of me, but can you give me a chance for Peter's sake? I'm really close to my mom, and I can't even imagine not talking to her for that long. Peter respects you a lot, so maybe you can give me a chance at this." "Sandra, it's not that simple. You're not the woman I imagined for my son." "I'm confident we can work something out, Donna. Just give me a chance. Get to know me, and who knows? Maybe we'll discover some common ground. We might even find something we both like." "Oh, please, Ella. You're nothing like me. I don't think we can ever get along, but I will give it a thought just because I miss my son way too much." I got back from Donna's place not really knowing what to expect. I decided not to tell Peter about our chat just yet. It felt like if it happened, it should be a surprise, and maybe a pleasant one. The next Sunday, Donna reached out to Peter. She called and surprisingly told him she was willing to give things a second chance. Donna even invited us over for dinner at her new place. It was a step in the right direction, and I couldn't help but feel hopeful. Things might just be looking up for Peter and his mom. We went to her place in the evening. I helped Donna a bit with the food while Peter enjoyed a beer. Son, I want to apologize for missing your wedding and your birthday. It was the first time I missed your birthday, and I know the wedding was a big deal. Mom, it hurt me that you weren't there for the wedding. It was such an important day for me, and I really wanted you to be there. I'm genuinely sorry for that. You know I've had my reservations about Sandra, but I'm willing to give this a second chance. Thanks, Mom. I hope we can have a better future. By the way, how's your mom, Sandra? I visit her regularly. Well, she must be all alone now, right? Donna commented. Come on, Mom, let's not get into this again. Peter sighed. I'm just saying, she sounds like a crazy cat lady who can't keep a husband or a relationship. That's completely not true. She just chooses not to. Peter retorted. Sandra and I drive down to see Trina almost every weekend. She treats me like her own son. It seems like you two visit her more often than you reach out to me, Donna accused. Mom, I tried to call you so many times, especially around the wedding, and you never picked up. It made me feel really disappointed. But I am your mom. I know you're my mom, and no one can replace that. Trina is my mother-in-law, and she's making an effort. I told her once that I like Mexican food, and the next time we went over, she cooked a special Mexican meal for me even though she had no experience with it. She's a kind woman, a great mother-in-law, and I'm grateful for that. Well, it looks like my son has different priorities now, Donna said, a hint of bitterness in her voice. How about dinner at my place every Sunday? I think we should start new traditions. That sounds great, Donna, Sandra replied warmly. Mom, you have no idea how happy I am to see you make an effort like this, Peter added, smiling. Nearly a year had passed since Peter and I got married, and I have to say, things were going great. Peter made me breakfast every day before he left for work, leaving it on the kitchen counter with a little note that never failed to brighten my day. He also surprised me with a bouquet of fresh flowers every Friday evening, a tradition that always brought a smile to my face. Despite the rocky start with Donna, she gradually started warming up to me. She wasn't exactly my biggest fan, and she had some strong opinions about my mother, believing that she was problematic and had raised me to be a problematic daughter. But deep down, Donna wanted to rekindle her relationship with her son, which gave me hope. Our Sundays were reserved for visiting Donna. It had become a regular thing, almost a tradition. Donna would invite us over for dinner, and it was a step in the right direction. I couldn't help but feel that maybe, just maybe, we could all grow closer as a family. It was just a regular Sunday, and we were all geared up to head over to Donna's place. But that day took a sharp turn when my phone rang with alarming news. It was the hospital, and the news was not good. My mom had suffered a stroke and was being rushed to the hospital. I told Peter, and he immediately sent a text to Donna explaining the situation and apologizing for our absence. There was no way we could make it to her place. I couldn't bear the thought of not being there for my mom when she needed us the most. So off we went to the hospital, and those hours of waiting and worrying felt like an eternity. Fortunately, it turned out to be a mini stroke. Still, it was scary, and it could have been much worse. My mom's a tough cookie, and she was on the mend. For the next few days, I stuck by my mom's side, taking some time off from the bookstore to look after her. Peter would drive down every couple of days to check on us, his concern for Trina evident, which meant the world to me. My mom's health gradually improved, and that was a relief like no other. One evening, when we returned home, I found myself feeling drained both emotionally and physically. I hadn't even had a moment to process everything that had happened, and then the doorbell rang. It was Donna. Well, I haven't seen you guys in a while, she said. Mom, like I told you, Trina had a mini stroke, Peter explained. I've been trying to mend things with you. I even let Sandra into my house, even though I had my issues with her. But it's been almost 2 weeks. You couldn't even manage to show up at my house once. Donna, it was a serious situation. My mom was at the hospital. She had a mini stroke. I was so scared I could have lost her. I needed my husband there, and it's not like we stopped coming over to your place or something. We just needed some time, I said, feeling frustrated. Maybe I've been overthinking things, but anyway, would it be fine with you, Sandra, if I use your car tomorrow? Donna asked. Yeah, of course. My car broke down, and I need to go somewhere very important to meet this friend of mine. Of course you can. I have some more leave from the bookstore, so I'll be staying at home anyway. Peter has his own car, And I don't think I'll be using mine, I replied, trying to keep the peace. You're a lifesaver, Donna said. Later that night, Peter brought up the topic of Donna's broken-down car. He told me it had reminded him of how long it had been since he had sent his own car for maintenance. Hey, how about you drop me at Mom's house in your car before going to work? We can also make a stop and give Donna my car keys. She can use it and drop it off whenever she wants, Peter suggested. That sounds like a good plan, I agreed, hoping this would help smooth things over with Donna. Then on your way back in the evening, you can pick me up from my mom's house again. Sure, sounds great. On the way back, we can even stop at the maintenance center to drop my car there and get an Uber from there to home. The next day, we followed our plan precisely. Peter dropped me off at my mom's house on his way to work, and before that, we stopped by Donna's place to give her the keys to my car. Hey Donna, here are the keys. You can use my car and drop it back at my place. I'm heading to my mom's house, and the car is in our driveway. I won't be needing it for much time, just some hours. I'll drop it off at your place before you get back home. I had a great time visiting my mom. I cooked for her like in the old times, and we watched our favorite reality show. When Peter picked me up on his way back from work, we went to the maintenance center. Peter left his car there, and we took an Uber home. When we got there, my car was standing in the driveway, and we figured that Donna must have dropped it off after she used it. The next day, he took my car to his office, and something very terrible happened. I received that dreaded call from the hospital. At first, my heart skipped a beat, and I thought it might be about my mom, but then the voice on the other end mentioned Peter's name, and I felt like my world was crashing down. The hospital explained that Peter had been in a car accident, and I could feel the panic rising within me. I rushed to the hospital as fast as I could. When I arrived, I was relieved to see that the accident, while frightening, had not been as catastrophic as it could have been. Peter's head was safe, and he had no major injuries, just a few broken bones. I called Donna to let her know about her son's accident. I was in the hospital room, sitting beside Peter's bed. He was still unconscious, and I was anxiously waiting for him to wake up. I held his hand, hoping for any sign of improvement. That's when Donna walked into the room. What the hell, Sandra? Look what you did to my son. All of this is your fault. How could this be my fault? You were supposed to get into that car and drive it, not Peter. Why did you let him drive your car? Are you serious? What are you trying to say? Just because of you, my son got into an accident. Oh my God, I can't bear the sight of him like this. He's so hurt. My poor son is in so much pain. Wait, Donna, what did you say? What do you mean I was supposed to get into the car? Yes, you and your mother, taking Peter away from me. We were finally getting close again. And then your stupid mom had that stroke, and my son stood me up to go and see that woman. I never liked you, Sandra. You are a terrible girl. Peter deserves better. I tried to tolerate you for his sake, but your mom? She's trying to steal my son too. It's not just you. Did you think I was blind to your attempts to take him away from me? She's alone. She can't have a family and keep a man, so she's trying to steal mine. You started this, Sandra. I thought it would end with you, so I may or may not have arranged for someone to mess with your car, but now look what you've done, dragging my son into this mess. Mom, what's going on? Are you serious? Oh, Peter, babe, are you fine? Can you get my mom out of here? I don't want to see her face. Peter, thank God you're all right. This is all Ella's fault. You're just a bit misguided right now. I did all of this to protect you from Sandra and Trina. Mom, you are just delusional. Just get out of here. I escorted Donna out of the room. Enough is enough. You tried to end my life, and look what happened. You hurt your own son. I won't let that go. Donna, you have insulted me and my mom repeatedly, but I gave you numerous chances, hoping one day you would accept me. In return, you tried to kill me. You wanted me gone, but I will ensure you face the consequences. I spent weeks at the hospital with Peter, waiting for him to heal and come home. He'd been through a terrifying car accident, and his injuries were slowly getting better. But during those long hours by his side, I couldn't forget what Donna had done. While we were still in the hospital, I called a lawyer. I knew I had to take action to make sure Donna faced the consequences of her actions. Dealing with legal stuff and police reports was a hassle, but it was necessary. Donna had to pay for attempting to hurt me. After a bunch of court proceedings, Donna got sentenced to 2 years in jail for attempted murder. The gravity of her actions finally caught up with her. It's been months since the accident, and Peter is still in pain. Some of his wounds haven't fully healed, and the emotional scars run deep. He's understandably furious with his mom for what she did. During this tough time, I've been there for him every step of the way. My mom, Trina, has also been a huge help. We're doing our best to make things as smooth as possible for him, considering the circumstances. Donna might be locked away for a while, but we don't think we can ever forgive her for what she has done. Stay safe, people.
The bride, who had graduated from a prestigious music college, looked down on me, a high school graduate. She compelled me to play the piano at my brother's wedding. I had never told her I could play the piano, so she was definitely messing with me. Furthermore, she whispered in my ear that she was betraying my brother Jack. To be honest, I have a real boyfriend besides Jack, she said. She smiled at me as I trembled in front of the piano, but I knew her smile would soon fade. My name is Elena Johnson, and I'm 32 years old. I'm unmarried and currently working as a staff member at a wedding hall. I have only one brother. Our parents divorced when I was in high school, and a few years later, our mother passed away in an accident. We haven't been in contact with our biological father for a long time, and he never supported us. Needless to say, I had a hard life. Instead of attending college, I went to work, and my brother and I helped each other make ends meet. Jack, my younger brother, is 3 years younger than me. He's sharp and intelligent. He was excused from university tuition under a special student program and completed 4 years of study. After that, he got a job at a well-known company and has been excelling at work. I was quite proud of Jack, who was getting married. According to my brother, the bride was the daughter of a company executive. She was beautiful, had a pleasant demeanor, and was family-oriented. She had graduated from a prestigious music institution and was already offering private piano lessons. She seemed flawless. One day during a holiday, a meeting was held between the two families. The bride and her parents, as well as me and my brother, were present. "Nice to meet you. My name is Grace Miller," she said. I had seen a picture of her before, but she was far more attractive and pleasant in person. Grace then asked me for some advice. "I heard that you work at a wedding hall. Is it possible for us to hold the wedding there?" "Of course, we'd be delighted to help you," I replied, happy to support my brother's big day. The parents were also happy and smiling, discussing the kind of person their daughter was. Elena has been playing the piano since she was a little girl and has won many prizes in competitions, Grace's father boasted, listing her accomplishments. However, Grace's face tightened when her father mentioned a certain girl. My daughter would get decent results, but the same girl would always win first place. It was very frustrating. What was that girl's name? "Let's not talk about that," Grace interrupted, her expression darkening. She quickly changed the subject. An hour later, I had to leave the room because my work phone rang. As I was returning, I saw Grace coming back from the restroom. I spoke to her. "I appreciate everything you did for us today. It was a fantastic day." Grace's attitude changed abruptly. "Attending today's meeting is a high school graduate," she sneered, then hurriedly returned to the room, leaving me stunned. I couldn't understand what had just happened. I finished my work call and returned to my seat, still puzzled. Grace had returned to her former pleasant self. "Elena, would you like something to drink?" she asked kindly, handing me the drink list. I must have misheard her earlier. Not wanting to complicate matters, I didn't tell anyone about the incident, and the meeting came to a close. However, I quickly discovered that it was not a misunderstanding at all. After Grace and I began meeting alone to plan the wedding ceremony, she consistently looked down on me. "You don't resemble Jack, who is very attractive," she would remark, implying that I was unattractive. Grace's sarcasm was relentless, targeting my high school education and unmarried status. "If you have time to assist others in getting married, why don't you worry about yourself?" she'd say. "Thanks for the advice. Oh, but you're only a high school graduate, so you're not very bright. And you lack etiquette because you were raised by a single mother. I don't think you'll be able to find a partner." Grace often boasted about her piano skills. reminding me that she always won top prizes in competitions. I'm not like you, who only finished high school and went to work. Grace's constant jabs wore on me, and I grew to dislike her, even though she was supposed to be my brother's wife. However, since Jack chose her and their relationship seemed solid, I decided to keep my feelings to myself and endure her behavior. Months passed, and the wedding day arrived. Grace's father, an executive, had many company employees in attendance. Given the high number of guests and their VIP status, I had cleared my schedule to ensure everything went smoothly. Despite being the groom's sister, I chose to work behind the scenes until shortly before the ceremony began. As the ceremony neared, I was in the dressing room touching up my makeup when Grace's two female friends entered. They were engrossed in conversation, so I quietly continued with my preparations. Suddenly, their conversation took an unexpected turn. "Hey, did you know Grace is dating another guy? I've heard he's from the nightclub. She said she's getting married today just to keep up appearances. If that's true, I feel sorry for the groom who has no idea." My mind went blank. I had to stop the wedding. But I couldn't cancel the ceremony without proof. The ceremony began, leaving me feeling bewildered. During the ceremony, Grace's friends, all music college graduates, entertained the guests with beautiful performances. Suddenly, Grace picked up the microphone and announced, "Now my sister-in-law will perform on the piano." All eyes turned to me. I panicked. Grace had never told me about this, and I had never mentioned that I could play the piano. This surprise was not part of the plan. Grace was supposed to play the piano later in the wedding, so the piano wasn't ready. Hearing Grace's words, the ceremony hall staff began frantically arranging the piano. While I was too surprised to move, Grace approached me at the family table and yanked my arm with all her strength. "Come this way," she commanded, dragging me towards the piano. "Hey, you didn't tell me anything about this," I murmured quietly, aware of the guests watching us. Grace started blurting out in a hushed voice, "When I look at you, I can't help but get angry, so all I want to do is annoy you." "Is that the only reason you're treating me like this?" I asked. "Yeah, that's right," she replied with a smirk. As Grace's true nature became more apparent to me, I realized how much I despised her. "The ceremony will be ruined if you refuse to perform here. What do you think will happen if I cry in front of my father? The marriage would be annulled, and Jack would be fired from his job. Do you really want your beloved brother to get fired? Honestly, I have another boyfriend. I only married Jack because my parents were too annoying," Grace confessed. Her words confirmed the rumors I overheard in the bathroom. As I pondered this, the piano was set up. "Let's see what you got," Grace challenged. I sat down on the piano bench, my body shivering and my breath heavy. "I'm wondering if it was too much to ask of someone who only graduated from high school like you. Perhaps you've never even touched a piano," Grace taunted, smiling triumphantly. The audience grew increasingly noisy, and a staff member I knew approached me concerned. "Are you feeling all right?" she asked. Grace, on the other hand, had a contented smile on her face. "Play the piano if you're Jack's sister," but it seems I was mistaken. "I'm sorry," she mocked. However, a single phrase from my brother changed everything. "Don't you know my sister?" he asked. "What?" Grace replied, startled. I broke the silence by playing "Dream of Love," a standard wedding song. The venue, which had been noisy, quieted with the sound of the piano. When I finished, I was greeted with thunderous applause. My colleagues, who hadn't expected me to play so well, were moved to tears. In contrast, Grace's face was bright red, and she was biting her lips. "How could you play so well when you were nervous and trembling earlier?" Grace asked, astonished. "I didn't tell you, but I studied at a music college overseas," I replied, announcing the university's name. Grace staggered backward, shocked. "That's the college I wanted to go to, but couldn't. How could someone like you from a single-mother family attend?" "I've been taking piano lessons since I was a little girl and had support from people around me. However, when my mother died, I had to drop out of music school to help my brother attend school," I explained. The reason I never told you I could play the piano was to avoid ruining your reputation. It seemed my brother hadn't mentioned my piano experience to Grace. Determined to outdo me, she refused to acknowledge my past. Hey, isn't that Elena Garcia? One of Grace's friends suddenly asked, recognizing my face. Oh, if that's the case, she's incredible. We can't even begin to compete, she added, recalling me from music college, where I was well known as a brilliant pianist. Grace, hearing the last name Garcia, asked with a bewildered expression, Are you by any chance that Elena Garcia who won all the awards in the competitions? I don't know if I won all the awards, but it's true I won many of them. Yes, that's right, I confirmed. I was the girl who always stood in front of Grace at every competition. Elena Garcia was my name before my parents divorced. The audience cheered, and someone handed me a microphone, asking if I wanted to comment on my performance. I saw my chance to take revenge on Grace and revealed what I knew. Please listen, everyone. Grace is having an affair. Gasps filled the room, and Grace's parents looked stunned, their mouths agape. No, that's not true. She's talking nonsense. Grace tried desperately to deny it. But I quickly connected my phone to the speaker and played a recording of what Grace had whispered in my ear earlier. To be honest, I have another boyfriend. I only married him because my parents were too annoying. Knowing Grace's true nature, I have been ready with my phone's voice recorder to capture her words. Grace's face turned pale as her deception was laid bare. You disgraceful brat, her father yelled, and all hell broke loose. I'm sorry, Papa, Grace pleaded. I'll never forgive you. You are no longer my daughter, her father declared. Jack also turned on Grace. How dare you deceive me? I'm not marrying you. Please reconsider, Grace begged, but my brother was furious. Apologize to my sister too, he demanded, pushing her away. Grace, desperate and not knowing what to do, turned to me. Please forgive me. Everyone will forgive me too. Even at this point, Grace seemed to think only of herself, offering no apology to me. You've been insulting me for so long, and now you expect me to forgive you. You take far too many things for granted. Grace broke down, confessing, How will I ever be able to live on my own if Papa and Jack abandon me? She admitted that her lover was a spendthrift and that she couldn't survive on his money alone. I don't care about your life. I'm not going to forgive you, I told her coldly. Finally, in a tight spot, Grace bowed her head to me. I apologize for everything I've done. I'm sorry, she sobbed, her makeup smudged and her eyes dark. It was a pitiful sight, but I felt nothing for her. You insulted me for graduating only from high school and trampled on my brother's heart. Never show your face in front of us again. Grace broke down in tears and was escorted out of the ceremony hall by her relatives. Her parents then apologized to the attendees, and the wedding was abruptly canceled. After the attendees left, my brother and I talked. I'm really sorry if I made you feel bad because I fell for that woman, Jack said. I'll be fine. Are you going to be okay? I asked. I need to sort out my feelings, but I'll get back on my feet soon, he assured me. I believed him and decided to support him as he healed. Later, my brother and Grace officially broke off their engagement. Jack received compensation, and Grace's parents cut her off and kicked her out of the house. Without her parents' support, Grace struggled to make ends meet. Her affair partner dumped her as soon as her financial support vanished. Jack, on the other hand, devoted himself to his work and was soon promoted, his efforts paying off. As for me, I have been asked to play the piano more frequently at wedding ceremonies, and my days are busy. I hope to bring joy to many people with my performances.
Hello everyone, my name is Arena, and today I want to share the story of my mother-in-law, Sarah. She is the quintessential nightmare mother-in-law, determined to push me out of her son's life. Did her plan work? No, but she certainly tried. Since you all love mother-in-law stories, I thought my experience might entertain you, and if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, offer some advice. David, my now husband, and I dated for 4 long years. We met through a mutual friend, and the rest is history. He is a wonderful and handsome man. I was surprised to find him single and soon understood why after we started dating. He gave me a small warning saying, I want you to meet my mom, but I'm not sure how she'll react. It's not about you, Arena, or us. It's her. She doesn't like it when I bring a woman home. Seriously. But you're past 20. Why would she have a problem with that? I asked. Well, I grew up with my mom alone since my father left before I was born. She's fixated on me and gets jealous when another woman comes into my life, he explained. That small warning didn't prepare me for the reality. Sarah was a madwoman, and I don't know how to put it politely. When David finally took me to meet her, she didn't talk to me or even look at me during the entire dinner. It was incredibly embarrassing and awkward. David tried to include me in the conversation, but Sarah just ignored me and changed the topic. When I asked her something directly, she would stay quiet and only talk to her son, determined to show me my place. David apologized 1,000 times after we left over the phone since he had to drive his mom home. Did I mention he lived with her? Yes, Sarah would pull health scare stunts and cry a river whenever he wanted to move out. My poor husband was conditioned to prioritize his mom over everyone else. As our relationship progressed, Sarah became even more hostile. She kept telling David to break up with me and resorted to all kinds of manipulation, including blackmail when I asked him to move in with me. I could write a novel about her antics. I endured her horrible behavior because I loved David and he loved me too. Things got worse after we got married. On our wedding day, Sarah walked up to me and said, Don't be so happy, Arena. This marriage will not last a year. I will make sure of it. What? What are you saying, Sarah? Who says things like this at a wedding? I asked, shocked. I don't care about your stupid wedding. You will never steal my son away from me. I can promise you that. I will make sure this marriage dissolves, and then I will have my son back where he belongs, she retorted. David loves me, and I love him too. Don't you want your son to be happy, Sarah? I pleaded. My son was perfectly happy with me. He didn't need you in his life. I don't care how you managed to trap him, but you won't be here for long. I won't allow some woman to take over my son. I am and will be the only woman in his life. I hope you remember that, she declared. Her words made me cry on my wedding day. As if that wasn't bad enough, she also cut up my wedding veil and threw out my flower bouquet. It was a disaster, but David and I still got married. He tried to get his mom to apologize, but that apology never came. What was worse was that we had to live in Sarah's house after the wedding. On our wedding night, I cried to David. I can't do this, David. I love you and really want this marriage to work, but I can't stay here. I can't have Sarah in our lives. I'm so sorry for my mother's mistakes, Arena. You know I'm the only one she has. I cannot cut her off. Please understand my situation, he begged. Sarah will make my life hell in her house. Can't you see that? I will be miserable here. I already am, I said. I promise I will figure out something about the living arrangements. I won't let you suffer for long. Please just give me some time, David assured me. David kept his promise. Within 3 months, he accepted a job opportunity in another country. The pay was exceptionally good, and he decided to take it. Sarah wasn't happy and threw some major tantrums. But she calmed down when David said she could come and visit. He flew out soon, while I was set to join him a month later. Thankfully, during that month, Sarah ignored me a lot. She never talked to me and kept to herself. I thought maybe I could have a quiet month before leaving for good and worry about Sarah coming later. Fate had other plans. Just a few days before my flight to join my husband, I had a strange feeling when I saw Sarah sneak into my room. She thought I wasn't there, but I was actually in my closet with the door half closed so she couldn't see me. Imagine my surprise when I saw Sarah sneak into my room while I was quietly packing my stuff. I stayed silent and observed her. When I saw Sarah reach for my bag of documents and take out my passport, I was immediately on alert. She took my passport and happily left the room. I came out of the closet, trying to make sense of what I had seen. I went to the living room and overheard my mother-in-law discussing her evil plan with a friend on the phone. I was shocked to learn what she intended to do with my passport. I quickly went to her room and saw my passport lying in a black pencil case. Something came over me, and I replaced my passport with hers. Then I went back into my room and called David. Your mother just tried to burn my passport, David. She came into my room and took it, thinking I wasn't there. I overheard her plan while she was telling a friend on the phone. Whoa, what are you saying, Harina? Mom tried to ruin your passport? This can't be true. Of God, it can't be true. It is true, David. I wish it wasn't. I have my passport safe with me, but I replaced it with hers. I wanted to give you a heads up about it. My mom can't do this, Harina. I'm sure she'll come back out. Why don't we find out? I will make sure I have proof. In the meantime, I knew David would have a hard time believing the truth. It was his mother after all. I didn't blame him and knew I could prove everything. Sarah liked to boast, and she would eventually spill the beans to make me sad. It was only a matter of time. I made some plans and quickly packed my stuff, waiting for an out to leave this place for good. The next morning, Sarah seemed to be in a good mood. She was cheerful and kept giving me smirks. I knew this was the time to use her cocky behavior against her. I sat down and said, "Hey Sarah, have you seen my passport anywhere? My flight is in 3 days, and I cannot find it anywhere." "Ah, your passport. I think I know where it is," she replied. "Oh really, Sarah? Thanks for finding it. I must have misplaced it. Can you give it back to me?" I asked, knowing full well where my passport was. I was just baiting her to spill the truth. Sarah took the bait without suspicion. She looked at me and laughed before saying in the meanest voice she could muster, "No, I can't, Arena. I have destroyed your passport so that you cannot live with my son in another country. It has been burned to ashes. Now you will be forced to stay here while I go and help my son build his life there. Things will be just like they were before you came into the picture." "Oh really, Sarah? You think it would be that easy to remove me from my husband's life? Have you forgotten that I am not just his girlfriend anymore? I am his wife. Divorces happen to a lot of people, Arena. Not all marriages are meant to last a lifetime. It will be easy for me to get rid of you now. I will be around David a lot while you sit here, unable to do anything. In a few months, I will convince him to leave you, and then there will be nothing holding us back. I won't allow him to bring in worthless people to replace me again." The way Sarah had planned this entire thing was disgusting and amusing at the same time. She was so hell-bent on being the only woman in her son's life that she was ready to do anything. All this time, she had been quiet because she was planning this whole thing. It was impressive how fast she could come up with a plan to destroy my marriage and her son's life. She was confident that her son would listen to her and divorce me straight away. I could see why she would think that, after all, they would be far away from me and I would rarely be able to visit. By the time I got my passport back, it would be too late. It was a brilliant plan, but there was a big flaw in it that she didn't consider. So I decided to enlighten her. "That's a nice plan you've got there, Sarah. I'm very impressed, but it is not going to work. Sure, you did destroy a passport, but—" "Oh yes, you can always get a new one, but it will take months. I just need a little time to convince my son. After that, no passport will be able to help you." "Why would I need a new passport, Sarah? My passport is perfectly capable of doing its job. But I don't think yours can anymore. So it looks like now you can't go live with your son." "Excuse me? What are you talking about?" "I have my passport and plane tickets ready. I will be leaving in a few days." "You can't do that if you don't have your passport with you, Sarah. Meanwhile, I have my passport just fine," I said, pulling out my own passport and showing it to her. It was authentic and it was mine. I showed her my passport but didn't let her touch it. I wasn't going to be that stupid. I let her see it and watched as her face showed complete confusion. It was like she couldn't comprehend how my passport had come back from the grave and was in my hands. She looked shocked and said, "Wait a damn minute. How is that possible?" No, this must be fake. I destroyed your passport with my own hands. I made sure it was burned to ashes. This can't be real." "Unfortunately for you, Sarah, my passport is in perfectly good condition. Not a single flame of fire has touched it, but I can't say the same for yours." "What are you talking about, Arena? My passport is also perfectly all right. Wait, I'll get it and show you." Sarah went to her room to retrieve her passport. She left in haste and looked confident, but when she came back a few minutes later, she looked panicked and scared. "What the hell, Arena? Where is my passport? Did you steal it? This is not funny, Arena. Give me my property back. You can't do this to me." "I didn't take your passport, Sarah, but I do know what happened to it." Tell me where my passport is. Tell me right now. You burned it with your own hands, Sarah. Have you forgotten what happened last night? You took your passport out, put it in the fireplace, and watched it burn. You looked really happy back then. No, that can't be my passport. That's not possible. That can't be mine. I checked. Yes, you checked when you stole my passport and took it to burn, but in your haste, you forgot to check it one more time before throwing it into the fire. Thankfully, I knew what you were up to and quickly swapped my passport with yours. It was easy. You had it right beside mine. Sarah looked like I had shot her in the chest. She clutched her chest and appeared about to have a panic attack, and I was in no mood to help her at all. She looked stricken with panic and fear, tears in her eyes, and didn't know what to do. You monster! How could you do this to me? Oh my God, how will I get to my son? Wow, Sarah, it's okay for you to destroy my passport, but I'm a monster because I replace it with yours? That's rich coming from you. Also, I don't think you need to worry about joining your son anymore. What? What are you talking about? This is not over. I will get a new passport and tell my son what you have done. I will do everything in my power to make you pay for this. A replacement passport won't do you much good, Sarah. I don't think your son will want you to come to his place anymore. David would like to say something on this matter. I picked up my phone and turned up the call volume. Sarah thought I would confront her without having a witness. Well, that wasn't going to happen. So I called David and put him on speaker. I also made sure to tell him to mute the call while turning down the call volume so Sarah wouldn't know someone was on the phone. It worked wonderfully. Sarah went from looking angry to crying when she heard my husband say, "What the hell, Mom? What the hell did you try to do? I just wanted to come see you, and look, your wife has destroyed my passport intentionally. She wants to separate you from me." "Oh no, Mom. That won't work on me anymore. She didn't do anything. You are the one who destroyed the passport, and you are the one who tried to ruin my marriage by separating me from my wife. Although I am surprised to hear that you think you can convince me to leave Verena. I love her, and nothing will make me divorce her." Sarah knew she had been caught. She was in a tight spot with no idea how to get out of this situation, so she started to justify her actions. And oh God, her excuses were just hilarious. They just showed how deranged and crazy she was. She started to sob and said, "David, son, you need to understand why I did it. She really does want to separate me from you. Do you remember how happy we were when it was just the two of us? She came and destroyed everything. You moved away to get away from Arena." "No, Mom, I moved away to get away from you. Everything was perfect until you started to mess up my marriage and tried to kick Arena out of my life. I told you multiple times that I am happy with her, but your selfishness didn't let you choose your son's happiness over yours. What kind of a mother are you?" "David, don't say that, dear. You're breaking your poor mother's heart. Arena is poisoning you against me. Arena has been nothing but patient with you. You don't get to blame your evil deeds on my innocent wife. God, I don't know how you could do this to your own son. You know what? I don't even care anymore. Arena is right. I don't want you to come here. If you do, I will throw you out. I want nothing to do with you anymore." Hearing this, Sarah started to bawl. She was slowly becoming uncontrollable while she begged David to forgive her. She was desperate to get back into his good graces and started to make up stories about how I was abusing her at home. David knew that all those stories were lies and said so himself. My dear mother-in-law kept crying and pleading with David not to do this to her. Meanwhile, my friends arrived at the door, ready to move my packed stuff to their house. There was no way I would stay with Sarah any longer. I would be gone that day itself. They started to haul my stuff into their trucks while Sarah continued to bawl in front of the phone. Finally, David said, "Arena, do you have your stuff out of the house?" "Yes, I do, David. Don't worry, your mother will not be able to destroy anything of mine anymore." "Good. Now go with your friends and stay there till your flight. Leave Mom be and don't entertain her anymore. I'm hanging up. Call me when you are out of the house." Sarah heard our interaction and started to panic again. She looked like the deranged woman she was. She said to David on the phone, "David, son, please don't do this. Don't abandon me here. Please forgive me. Stop, Mom. Just stop. I don't want to listen to you anymore. Lose my number, Mom. I don't want to see you or hear from you again. I will be blocking your number on all forms of communication. Arena will do the same, so don't try to harass her. David, please don't do that. I can't even reach you anymore. I can't clutch your feet and beg. Please don't shut me out. Let's talk this through. We have done plenty of talking before, Mom. Not anymore. You are an independent woman who can live without your son, and I am an independent man who can live without his mom. We don't need to be in touch anymore. Don't bother." David said that and ended the call. Sarah panicked and ran to her own phone to try and call him. We took that opportunity to run for the hills. We all got into the truck and drove far, far away from Sarah and her craziness. I called David on my way and he picked up instantly. "I'm out of the house, David. I'm safe. Don't worry." "Thank God. I'm so sorry, Irina. I never should have left you there. Even if Mom had destroyed your passport and come here first, her words wouldn't have swayed me. I wouldn't have divorced you. You know that, right?" "Yes, I know that, David. I trust you. Speaking of Sarah, I take it that she is blowing up your phone." "Yeah, she is. Don't worry, she's blocked, and I am going to inform everyone in the family about her latest deeds. Trust me, everyone will be on our side. Just be careful for the next few days and fly here as soon as possible." I flew down to David a few days later. My flight was exactly 3 days later, and I reached David the next day. I was careful not to go out much and enjoyed the peace and quiet at my friend's place. I couldn't take all my stuff to the new country, so I asked my mom to come and collect it. She would rent a U-Haul and take my stuff to her city. My friends were a big help and managed to keep Sarah away from me until I left. Since then, David and I were able to settle and just fine, and we're thrilled to start our new life. It feels good to be close to my husband after being away for so long. Now, I'll tell you what happened to my dear mother-in-law after I left her alone. She kept trying to contact me and David, and we kept blocking every new number she bought. The extended family was already informed about her obnoxious behavior, and they all cut her off. I don't blame them. Who would want to keep in touch with a psycho like that anyway? Sarah filed for a replacement passport and came to our country, but she doesn't know our address, so it was a waste of time. She did show up at David's workplace and was escorted out by security. She threw such a big tantrum that the cops were called, and she was promptly sent back to her country. She won't ever get a visa here again, so we will be free from Sarah for a very long time. All right, let me tell you about my life and how I managed to stay true to myself despite the constant criticisms from my ex-husband, FY, and my mother-in-law, Susan. I'm Zara, a 32-year-old woman, and I'm proud of my career in pottery. It's not the typical 9-to-5 job, but it's my passion, and I absolutely love what I do. Sure, I might not be rolling in money like some of my friends, but I've achieved success in my niche, and that's what matters to me. Vi and Susan, on the other hand, never really understood my work. They thought it was childish and not a real job. Whatever that means, it was disheartening to hear them make snide comments about my passion, but I refused to let it get to me. Pottery is more than just a job to me. It's a form of art, a way to express myself, and I take pride in creating unique pieces. But FY and Susan didn't see it that way. They thought I should be doing something more professional and respectable. It didn't help that Susan, due to her physical disability, had to live with us. I tried my best to be understanding and accommodating, but it was hard when she kept judging my choices and making me feel inadequate. FI wasn't much better. He would often bring up the fact that my friends were all high-earning professionals while I was just playing around with clay. It hurt to hear him belittle my passion like that. One day, we had a conversation that still stings. I was talking to some of my friends the other day, and they were discussing their wives' careers, FY said. "Oh, what were they saying?" I asked. "Most of their wives have high-paying jobs and successful careers." It got me thinking about us. "What do you mean?" "I mean, compared to them, your career is a bit, well, odd. Working with pottery and all that. It's not exactly the typical high-paying job." "Are you saying my job is less valuable just because it doesn't make as much money?" "No, that's not what I meant. I just meant that it's a bit embarrassing sometimes when people ask what you do, and I have to tell them you're a potter." "Embarrassing? You're embarrassed by my passion and my hard work." "It's not like that. I'm proud of you and what you've achieved. It's just that sometimes I wish you had a more conventional job." "So, you're saying you'd rather I give up my passion and do something I don't love just to fit into your idea of a perfect wife?" "I just wish people would see how amazing you are and not judge you based on your job. But you're the one judging me, FY. You're the one who's embarrassed by my career. I guess I just wish people would see it the way I do." It was a lame excuse for an apology or trying to be supportive as he was claiming. Stupidly, at the time, I let it slide. I regret doing that because later on, I learned how he really felt about it. One evening, I had just finished working on a particularly intricate pottery piece when I overheard FY and Susan talking in the living room. Their voices were hushed, but I could still make out what they were saying. FI chuckled and said, "Can you believe she spends all day playing with clay? I mean, come on, that's not a real job." Susan joined in, "I know, right? It's like she's stuck in some child's playtime while the rest of us are out there making a real living." Their words stung, and I felt my heart sink. I knew they didn't understand my passion, but to hear them belittle my job behind my back hurt more than I expected. I took a deep breath and decided to confront them. Walking into the living room, I put on a brave face and said, "Hey, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation. I just want to remind you that pottery is my career, and it means a lot to me. It might not be the traditional 9 to 5, but it's what I love doing." FY looked taken aback, and Susan tried to backpedal. "Oh, sweetie, we didn't mean to offend you. It's just that we worry about your future and financial security." I shook my head, trying to stay composed. "I appreciate your concern, but I'm doing well in my field. My work is gaining recognition, and I'm proud of my accomplishments. I wish you could see that." FY seemed uncomfortable. "Look, honey, we just want what's best for you. We're not trying to put you down, but we worry about the stability of your job." I sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and hurt. "I understand that, but it's my passion, and I'm willing to take the risks. I've worked hard to get where I am, and I won't let your doubts hold me back." "We're just looking out for you, dear," Susan said. "It's not that we don't support you, but we want to see you thrive in a more traditional career." I appreciated their concern, but it was clear they didn't truly understand my passion. Instead of arguing further, I decided to let my success speak for itself. In the following months, as my pottery projects gained more recognition and I received invitations to showcase my work in art exhibitions, I noticed a change in FY and Susan's attitudes. They began to acknowledge my talent, though their support still felt hesitant. I knew I couldn't change their views entirely, but I hoped that with time they would come to understand and respect my career choice. Despite their negativity, I didn't let it deter me. I love my job, and that's all that mattered. I knew I was good at what I did, and I had the respect of my colleagues and clients. That's all the validation I needed. Whenever they made snarky comments, I would just smile and shrug it off. I knew they didn't understand my passion, and that was fine. I didn't need their approval to be happy. What's even more amazing is that my pottery started gaining more recognition. I started getting featured in magazines and art exhibitions. My unique style and authentic approach to my work were finally getting the attention they deserved. Of course, FY and Susan couldn't ignore the success forever. They might not have fully appreciated my work, but they couldn't deny that it was bringing in money, and that seemed to be the only thing that made them somewhat okay with my career choice. As the years went by, I continued to excel in my field. I learned to tune out their negative comments and focus on what truly mattered, my passion and happiness. It wasn't always easy, but I was determined to stay true to myself. I had my ups and downs, but my dedication and hard work paid off. I was able to carve a niche for myself in the pottery world, and I couldn't have been prouder. Well, guess what, folks? All of my hard work and dedication paid off. Let me tell you what happened next. After all that hard work, I finally got a major investor interested in my pottery. I was over the moon. The investor told me he'd pay me $33,000 a week for my work, and I was thrilled. That's some serious cash. I couldn't wait to share the news with FY and Susan. I thought they'd be proud of me and finally see the value in what I do. When I got home, I was practically bursting with excitement. "Hey guys, you won't believe what happened today. I got a big break in my pottery career. Remember that investor I was telling you about?" "Oh right, that guy. What happened?" FY asked. "Well, he said he'd pay me $33,000 a week for my work." $3,000? That can't be right, Susan scoffed. No, let me finish. He said $33,000. $3,000 as a salary is a joke, Zara. How ridiculous. No, it's not a joke. Pottery is my passion, and this investor sees the value in my art. It's a real opportunity for me. A real opportunity. Come on, Zara. This is ridiculous. You need to be realistic. You'll never make it big with pottery. They were getting on my nerves, trying to speak over me and diminish my accomplishments. For some reason, they just didn't want to hear me when I wanted to tell them I'd be making $33,000 per week. They kept cutting me off, assuming it was my monthly or yearly salary, and boy, were they not impressed. They started shouting at me, telling me that my job was stupid and useless. Can you believe that? It was like a punch to the gut. It's not about making it big or being rich. I love what I do, and this offer means I can sustain myself doing what I'm passionate about. Sustain yourself? You're 32, Zara. It's time to grow up and get a real job, not some childish pottery nonsense. Their harsh words stung, but I knew better than to let them affect me. It's not childish nonsense. Pottery is a legitimate career, and I've worked hard to get to where I am. Why can't you just support me? Because we know better, Zara. You're wasting your time and talent on something that will never work out. You don't understand. This is my passion, my dream. I thought you both would be happy for me, but all you do is belittle my work. Your work will never be enough. You should focus on something more practical and profitable. This is my life, and I won't let you two dictate what I should do. I'm proud of my career, and I won't let your negativity bring me down. Well, good luck with your little pottery fantasy, but don't come crying to us when it all falls apart. They went on about how they had to be honest about where our relationship stood now that I wasn't making the big bucks. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All this time, they never really appreciated the hard work I put in or how much I loved what I did. I felt so unappreciated and hurt. It's not like I was trying to be rich or anything. I just wanted them to understand and support me, but instead they were just focused on the money and couldn't see the passion and fulfillment my work brought me. Then they said something I would never forget. FY and Susan told me they didn't care about our relationship anymore because I might not make as much money as they expected. It was like they were putting a price tag on our marriage. Look, Zara, we've been thinking about this for a while now. If you're not going to be making the money we thought, then there's no real reason for us to stay together, FY said. That's right, Susan added. We can't be associated with someone who's going to be struggling financially. It's just not acceptable. Are you serious? You want a divorce just because of money. It's not just about money, but it's a big part of it. I mean, I've been wanting a divorce for a while, but I thought your income would at least make things easier for me financially. I can't believe you're doing this. I thought we had a real connection, a real relationship. Well, relationships change, honey, and if you can't provide the lifestyle we want, then there's no point in staying together. So it was all about money for you too. You never really cared about me, just what I could bring to the table. I mean, it's not the only factor, but it's a significant one, FY admitted. I can't believe I married someone who values money more than love and connection. I'm disgusted. Love doesn't pay the bills, Zara. You'll understand that one day. Well, I'd rather have love and passion for my work than a marriage based on materialism and greed. Fine, have it your way. I'll file for divorce and we can all move on with our lives. Good riddance. As FY and Susan left the room, I felt a mix of emotions. I was hurt, angry, and heartbroken, but I also felt a sense of relief. I realized that I deserved better than to be with someone who only cared about money and didn't appreciate me for who I truly was. It was time for me to focus on my career and my passion and surround myself with people who truly valued and supported me. As painful as it was, this divorce was a chance for me to embrace my authentic self and find happiness on my own terms. After I left the house, I had a mix of emotions: hurt, anger, and relief. FY and Susan seemed kind of embarrassed and guilty for how they treated me, but it was too late to take back their words. The damage was done, and I was ready to move on. I called up my lawyer friend right away to speed up the divorce process. I wanted to be free from FY and his toxic mom ASAP. Luckily, we both agreed on a mutual divorce with no alimony involved. FY and Susan were surprised and laughed, thinking I'd be homeless without their money, but I reassured them that I'd be just fine. So we all sat down in that lawyer's office, ready to sign the divorce papers. FY and Susan looked so pleased with themselves, like they were finally getting rid of the crazy me. Well, I wasn't going to let their smugness get to me, especially since I had a lovely surprise for them once I finished signing the papers. When I finished signing, they jumped for joy, saying they were free from my antics. Finally, we're done with all this stupid drama. Free at last, FY exclaimed. Oh, thank goodness. No more dealing with her and her weird pottery stuff, Susan added. You know, you both seem really happy about this divorce, I remarked. Well, wouldn't you be? Now we can move on with our lives without your eccentricities. FY said smugly. Well, I guess the feeling is mutual, I said. Oh, please, don't try and act like you don't need us, especially now that you're broke, Susan scoffed. Oh, trust me, I'm more than happy to be rid of you two clowns. Clowns? How rude, FY snapped. Rude? Maybe, but I don't mind being rude to people who are beneath me. Beneath you? What are you, stupid and deaf? Susan sneered. Okay, enlighten us then, FY demanded. Well, for starters, I've got some pretty exciting news. You see, that night when I told you I'd be making $3,000, you didn't let me finish my sentence. I'll be making $3,000 per week. FI and Susan's jaws practically hit the floor. Their faces went pale as they realized the mistake they had made. The kind of money I'd be making could afford me a whole new life and easily cover Susan's medical expenses. Talk about a mic drop moment. I couldn't help but smile at the shock on their faces. It felt so good to turn the tables on them. I was finally free from their toxic attitudes and the constant belittling of my passion. Wait, $3,000 a week. Are you serious? Yep, dead serious. But we thought you were going to be poor without us. Yeah, you both seem to have a habit of underestimating me. I didn't mean, it's just that pottery, it's not a stable career. Pottery is my passion, and I've turned it into a successful business. Guess you missed that part. We didn't realize. Yeah, you didn't realize. You never took the time to understand or appreciate my work. You were too busy belittling it. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just thought. You thought wrong. You both thought wrong about a lot of things. Zara, we didn't know. We were just worried. Worried? You were worried that your precious image would be tarnished by having a wife with a strange career. Well, guess what? You lost more than just a wife and a daughter-in-law today. Good luck paying all those medical bills without me. Zara? Favorite, it's too late now. I've moved on, and I'm happier without you both in my life. Both of you are pathetic. Fury and Susan exchanged glances, looking regretful for their actions, but I had already made up my mind. Even if I changed it, the divorce papers were already signed. That was the sweet part of this all. Both FY and Susan had to just accept the fact that they threw a good woman away. I stood up, ready to face my new life without them. Susan made a sad attempt at crying, trying to gain sympathy. It was actually quite hilarious. I couldn't help but laugh right in their faces, fascinated at how cruelty can lead to downright stupidity. As I walked out of that office, I held my head high, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. I was ready to embrace my new life, one where I wouldn't be dragged down by their negativity. And you know what? Life without FY and Susan turned out to be pretty damned amazing. I focused on my pottery work, pouring my heart and soul into it. And you know what they say, do what you love, and the money will follow. Well, it sure did for me. My pottery project started gaining traction, and I started getting more and more clients. That $3,000 per week turned out to be just the beginning. I was earning even more than that, and I was damn proud of it. I moved into a cozy little apartment and finally felt at peace. I surrounded myself with supportive friends who appreciated my work and encouraged me to keep going. Meanwhile, FY and Susan were left to deal with the consequences of their actions. I heard through the grapevine that FY's finances took a hit because he squandered it on some shady business deals. I guess he was trying to get rich quickly, and it didn't pay off. The sad part was that Susan was struggling with her medical bills. Part of me wanted to feel some satisfaction in their misfortune, but I realized that I had moved on from all that drama. I was too busy building my own happiness to waste any more energy on them. So the moral of the story is, don't judge a book by its cover. Just because someone's career doesn't fit your idea of success doesn't mean they aren't making bank. And sometimes the people who look down on you end up eating their words. Life is too short to be weighed down by toxic people. Find your passion, embrace it, and surround yourself with those who uplift and support you. Trust me, it's a recipe for happiness and success.